The first time my key failed, I blamed my hand. I had been at my sister Judith's for 7 days, sleeping on a mattress that sighed every time I rolled over and helping her recover from shoulder surgery. By the time I got home, my fingers were stiff from gripping the steering wheel. I pushed the little brass key into the lock on Martin's study, turned it, and felt nothing catch. I tried again. From the other side of the door came Ross's voice. "Give me 1 second, Steve." Then the door opened 3 inches. My son-in-law stood there in his socks, wearing a white shirt and a headset. Behind him, 2 large monitors glowed on Martin's desk. "What are you doing in here?" I asked. Ross looked over his shoulder as if another woman might be standing behind him. "Working. My key doesn't fit." Claire came down the hall carrying my suitcase. "Mom, Ross needs privacy for his calls." I held up the key. "Why does my key no longer open your father's study?" Her mouth tightened before she answered. "Because it isn't Dad's study anymore." We moved on. There are sentences that arrive with their own silence. Even Ross's headset seemed to go quiet. Claire shifted my suitcase to her other hand. "That sounded harsher than I meant it." "No," I said. "I think it sounded exactly the way you meant it." Ross touched 1 finger to the headset. "I really do have somebody waiting." I looked past him. Martin's green-shaded lamp was gone. So was the sweater that had hung over the back of his chair since the last winter of his life. In their place sat a black filing tray, a stainless steel water bottle, and a little plastic cactus wearing sunglasses. "Where are his things?" "We boxed everything carefully," Claire said. "Where?" "The garage." "You put your father in the garage." "Oh, for God's sake, Mom, we put objects in the garage." Ross raised his eyebrows slightly, not at me or at Claire, but at the ceiling, which was where he often sent his opinions when he wanted to remain married. "Could we talk about this after my call?" he asked. I stepped away from the door. Ross gave me an apologetic smile and closed it. I heard the new lock engage with a neat little click. That click bothered me more than the door shutting. Martin had closed that door 1,000 times. I knew the sound of it. This was different hardware, a brisker lock installed by someone who had measured the opening and gone to a store and chosen a replacement without once thinking that the woman who owned the key might deserve a phone call. Claire carried my suitcase toward my bedroom. "Leave it," I said. "It's heavy." I managed to get it into the car. "And you complained about your back the entire time you were at Aunt Judith's." "I complained to Judith," she told me. "Traitor." That almost got a smile out of her, almost. My house smelled like cinnamon air freshener. I had never bought cinnamon air freshener in my life. The living room curtains, which Claire had replaced in March, were open wide enough for the neighbors to watch us disagree. Martin's chair had disappeared before Easter. Now a round basket full of folded blankets occupied its corner, though nobody in the house had ever been cold enough to require 5 identical gray blankets. I followed Claire into my bedroom. She set my suitcase on the bench at the foot of the bed and began unzipping it. "What are you doing?" "Taking out the things that wrinkle." "They've been in there 3 hours. Their futures are already decided." She stopped with one hand inside the suitcase. "Can we not do this? I'm not doing anything. You're unpacking a grown woman's underwear without permission." Claire withdrew her hand. "Fine." She stood straight, smoothing the front of her sweater. At 41, she had Martin's habit of pressing her lips together when she was angry. She had my hands, though. I noticed that whenever she reached for something. "I thought you'd be glad Ross had a proper place to work," she said. "He's been using the dining room for months." I would have been glad to discuss it. We tried. "When?" "Before you left. You said Ross needed a quieter setup. And you said, 'Do whatever makes sense.' I meant, buy him headphones. He has headphones." "Yes. I saw them attached to his head while he locked me out." Claire walked to the window. In the yard, the bird feeder hung empty. Martin had filled it every Sunday morning, even when rain made the seed clump like wet oatmeal. After he died, I kept filling it until February. Then one Sunday, I forgot. By Tuesday, the birds had apparently found someone more reliable. Claire touched the curtain cord. "You weren't using the room." "That isn't the point." What is the point? I wanted to tell her the point was that the study was mine because Martin had been mine. Even in my own head, it sounded ugly. People weren't lamps. Marriage wasn't possession, and Martin had not always been easy to claim. The point is that you changed a lock in my house. We changed one lock. How many would make it rude? Mom, I'm asking, is there a number? She turned around. Ross has confidential calls. He can't have people walking in. People, you, me, anyone. There are 3 adults in this house, Claire, unless the mailman has gotten very bold. Her eyes closed for a moment. When they opened again, she looked tired rather than angry. That was worse. Claire had done a great deal for me during the past year, and exhaustion had become the shield she lifted whenever I resisted her. I'm making soup, she said. You've probably eaten nothing but Judith's lemon cookies all day. They were lemon bars. That's not better. It is structurally different. This time, the corner of her mouth moved. She picked up my laundry bag but looked at me before taking it. May I? Yes, thank you. You're welcome. She left with the bag. I sat on the bench beside the open suitcase and listened to her footsteps fade toward the laundry room. On the dresser was the weekly pill organizer Claire had bought after my fall. Monday through Sunday, morning and evening, each compartment labeled in enormous black letters, though I took only 3 pills a day and had never once confused Tuesday with Friday. A yellow note rested beside it. Welcome home. Dinner at 6. Cardiology. Thursday, 10:30. Love you. The heart over the letter I in her name made me want to cry, which irritated me so much I put the note face down. I had fallen 11 months earlier while reaching for a bowl on the top shelf. My slipper caught the edge of a kitchen mat, and I landed hard enough to bruise my hip and scare myself breathless. Claire came over before the urgent care paperwork had finished printing. She stayed that night, then the next. Ross arrived with 2 overnight bags and a toolbox. They had been planning to move out of their apartment anyway, Claire said. This would give them time to find the right place, and I wouldn't be alone. At first, I slept better hearing their voices down the hall. Claire made coffee before I woke. Ross replaced the loose bathroom rail Martin had promised to fix for 6 years. They brought home Thai food on Fridays and watched terrible television with me. When Claire laughed, she threw her head back exactly as she had when she was younger, before she learned to laugh politely in restaurants. A few months became nearly a year because there was always a reason. Rents were ridiculous. Ross's company was reorganizing. Winter was a bad time to move. I said there was no hurry because, back then, there hadn't seemed to be one. At 6, I went to the kitchen. Claire had made chicken soup and grilled cheese sandwiches cut diagonally. She claimed diagonal sandwiches tasted better. Martin used to say that was impossible, then eat 4. Ross came in from the study carrying his stainless steel bottle. "How's Judith's shoulder?" he asked. "Sore. She says the sling makes her look like a wounded admiral." He laughed and sat across from me. "I can see that." Claire placed a bowl in front of him. "Did your call go okay?" "Fine." Steve talked for 40 minutes without inhaling. He should donate his lungs to science. I think science would return them. They were good together. That was part of what made being angry difficult. Ross wasn't cruel. He was the sort of man who washed a pan while it was still warm and remembered that I disliked raw onion. He was also drinking from a bottle he had apparently carried into my husband's study after changing the lock. "What did you do with Martin's lamp?" I asked. Ross set down his spoon. Claire remained at the stove. "It's in the garage with the rest. I'd like everything brought back inside. We can go through it this weekend." I didn't say go through it. "Mom, some of those books are covered in mildew." "They are not, several are." "Then bring in the ones that aren't." Claire turned with her own bowl. "And put them where?" "In the study. Ross is using the study. So I've heard." Ross wiped his mouth. "I can clear a shelf." Claire looked at him. "What?" he said. "I can." "A shelf," I repeated. "How generous." He went pink. "That was unnecessary," Claire said. "Yes, it was." For a moment, nobody ate. The refrigerator hummed. The clock above the pantry made small, stubborn clicks. I picked up half my sandwich. The soup is good. Claire sat down across from me. Thank you. Martin had hated quiet dinners. He would ask questions nobody wanted to answer just to get the room moving again. Once, during a disagreement about whether we needed a new roof, he asked Claire if she believed in reincarnation. She told him she hoped to return as a contractor so he might finally listen to her. I nearly told that story. Instead, I dipped my sandwich into the soup. After dinner, Ross washed the bowls. Claire wiped the counters twice. I went to bed early, but sleep would not settle. Every sound in the house seemed misplaced. The television murmuring past 10, pipes knocking behind the wall, Ross laughing once and then lowering his voice. At 11:30, I put on my robe and went downstairs. The door to the study was shut. I did not try my key again. The garage smelled of cold concrete, motor oil, and the cinnamon air fresheners Claire bought in bulk. Ross's car was parked close to the wall, leaving a narrow path beside stacks of boxes. At first, I thought Martin's things were behind the gardening supplies. Then I saw his name written in black marker. Martin Books, Martin Desk, Martin Clothes. There were 12 boxes in all. Some were sealed with packing tape. Others had their cardboard flaps folded over one another, as if someone expected to open them again soon. 3 boxes stood apart near the garage door. Keep, sell, donate. I opened the last one. On top, wrapped in one of my kitchen towels, was Martin's chipped brown coffee mug. The handle had been glued twice. Claire had given it to him years ago, and though the painted lettering had nearly worn away, I could still read it. My daughter thinks I'm perfect. I held it under the bare garage light until my hands stopped shaking. Then I carried it back into the house. I set the mug on the kitchen counter and turned on the light above the stove. There was a gray crescent of dust around its base. I ran warm water into the sink, added 1 drop of soap, and washed it with my fingertips. The crack in the handle had yellowed where Martin repaired it. He had used too much glue, then scraped the excess with a butter knife, leaving a rough edge along the porcelain. I filled the mug with water and waited. A dark bead appeared near the bottom, slipped down the side, and collected on the counter. "Well," I whispered, "you do leak." Martin had known. For the last few years, he kept pencils in it instead of coffee. Apparently, Claire remembered the crack, but not the pencils, while I remembered the pencils, but had forgotten the crack. Between us, we almost had one accurate memory. I dried the mug and put it beside my pill organizer. Then I went upstairs. At 7 the next morning, the smell of coffee woke me. Claire was standing at the kitchen counter in exercise clothes, slicing a banana into a bowl. She saw the mug before she saw me. Her knife stopped halfway through a slice. "You went into the garage." I did. "In the middle of the night?" It was quieter then. She set down the knife. "You could have fallen." I successfully crossed 30 feet of level concrete. There are boxes everywhere, I noticed. "Why didn't you wake me? So you could supervise? So I could help?" I opened the cabinet and reached for a coffee cup. Claire got there first and handed one to me. It was a new white cup with the word "breathe" printed in pale blue letters. "I'm familiar with the process," I said. "It came in a set." "Of course it did." She leaned against the counter. "That old mug leaks." "I know. Dad stopped using it years ago. He kept pencils in it. That doesn't make it useful. Not everything has to earn its place by being useful." Claire glanced toward the hallway. Ross had not come downstairs yet. "I wasn't going to throw it away without talking to you. It was in a box marked donate." That was a preliminary sort. Preliminary to what? Going through things together. You and Ross made a keep pile, a sell pile, and a donate pile. That sounds fairly advanced. I made the piles. Ross just carried boxes. That surprised me. I had assumed the plastic cactus had masterminded the whole operation. "Why did you put your father's mug in the donate box?" "Because it's broken." "You gave it to him." "I gave him a lot of things." "He loved it. He loved teasing me with it." The faded words faced her from beside the pill organizer. My daughter thinks I'm perfect. He brought it to the table every time you visited, I said. Yes. That was the joke. I thought you liked the joke. I did at first. Claire picked up the mug and ran her thumb over the lettering. Then he started doing it whenever I disagreed with him. I'd say his doctor wanted him to walk more, and he'd lift this thing at me. I'd tell him he shouldn't talk to you like that, and there it was. My daughter thinks I'm perfect. I remembered those moments, or pieces of them. Martin peering over the rim with bright, mischievous eyes. Claire trying not to smile. Me telling them both to stop. I had filed the exchanges under family humor. Claire had apparently filed them somewhere else. He did love the mug, I said. I know. The words came out softer than everything around them. She placed it back on the counter. Neither of us mentioned the wet ring it had left behind. Ross entered wearing running shorts and a t-shirt from a charity race he had not run. Claire registered us standing across from each other, the old mug between us, and opened the refrigerator. There's coffee, she told him. I was hoping there might be. He poured himself a cup, kissed her temple, and took a long drink. Okay. Good news. I'm awake enough to be blamed for something. I told Mom you only carried the boxes, Claire said. He looked at me. That is accurate. Did you change the lock? His cup paused near his mouth. That is also accurate. Why? Claire said you'd agreed we could make it an office. I agreed you needed somewhere quieter to work. Ross nodded cautiously. I can see how those might not be the same agreement. Claire shut the refrigerator harder than necessary. Bottles rattled inside. You said do whatever made sense, she reminded me. To you, apparently everything makes sense once it's already done. Ross studied his coffee. I'm going to put on pants. Stay, Claire said. I don't think pants are an unreasonable ambition. Ross? He looked at her, and something passed between them that I couldn't read. Then he set his cup in the sink. I'll move the boxes back out of the office this weekend, he said. All of them? I asked. As many as you want. I want all of them. Then all of them. And the lamp. Yes, the sweater. Yes, the books. Those were included in all. I'm being specific. I see that. And I want a key. Claire crossed her arms. Why do you need to enter while he's working? I don't. I need a key to the rooms in my own house. Then we'll make you one. I want the old lock put back. Ross rubbed the back of his neck. I may have thrown out the old cylinder. You threw it away? It wasn't valuable. I looked at Claire. She gave a short, joyless laugh. Please don't make that face. What face? The one that says we killed him again. Ross's eyes flicked toward her. I felt the room tilt, not physically, but in that familiar way it did when somebody said the thing everyone else had been carefully walking around. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. No, Claire, you don't get to supply my words and then punish me for them. She picked up her bowl and dumped the banana slices into the trash. I've lost my appetite. Ross reached for her arm, but she walked past him. He waited until her footsteps went upstairs before speaking. I thought you'd said yes, he told me. I didn't. I believe you. I studied him. Does that mean you don't believe her? It means I think you heard one conversation and she heard another. That's very diplomatic. I work in project management. Diplomacy is what they call fear after you put it on a resume. Against my better judgment, I laughed. He smiled briefly, then looked toward the stairs. She's been worried about you. I know. She doesn't always wear worry in an attractive way. I know that too. He took his coffee and left without trying to make me forgive anyone. After breakfast, I carried the mug to the small drop-leaf table in the dining room and put 3 pens in it. The green shade from Martin's lamp would look good there, I decided. I could make a place for some of his books along the wall. The thought angered me. I was planning how to fit my husband's belongings around Ross's office as though their right to the room had already been settled. I went upstairs, dressed, and took my purse from the closet. Claire appeared in my doorway while I was tying my shoes. She had changed into jeans and brushed her hair into a smooth knot. Where are you going? The store. I can take you. I have a car. You just drove 3 hours yesterday. Today I'm aiming for 12 minutes. What do you need? Birdseed. I'll pick it up. I'd like to pick it up myself. She watched me tighten the lace on my left shoe. Ross said he'd move everything this weekend. I heard him. You don't have to prove something every 10 minutes. I need birdseed, Claire. The feeder's been empty for months. Then the birds should be thrilled. She stepped aside, but her expression followed me down the hall. In the garage, my car was trapped behind Ross's. I stood looking at the 2 bumpers with perhaps 6 inches between them. He must have moved my car after I came home to fit his inside for the night. I returned to the kitchen. Claire was wiping an already clean stovetop. I need Ross's keys. She opened a drawer and handed them to me. I'll move it. I know how to back up a car. It's his company car. Does it go backward differently? Mom, stop. I held out my hand. After a moment, she dropped the keys into it. The car beeped at me from 4 directions while I reversed it into the driveway. By the time I got my own car out, Claire was standing at the front window with her arms folded. I returned Ross's car to the garage, though I considered leaving it sideways on the lawn. At the garden store, I bought sunflower seed, a pair of pruning gloves, and a small rosemary plant I did not need. The woman at the register recognized me from somewhere but couldn't place me. We spent 2 pleasant minutes naming organizations we had both quit. Book club? She asked. Too much wine. Historical society? Too much history. Church committee? Too many committees. We finally discovered we had taken the same water aerobics class 3 summers earlier. She asked how Martin was, and I told her he had died. Her face fell with such honest shock that I ended up comforting her. He had existed outside our house. That should not have surprised me, but it did. When I got home, Ross's car was gone. Claire had left a note on the counter. Gone to lunch. Back later. No heart over the eye this time. I filled the bird feeder and stood beneath it until 2 sparrows appeared in the hedge. They regarded me with suspicion. Martin used to whistle at them as if they were old co-workers. I tried his whistle and produced a sound like a tea kettle losing the will to live. 1 sparrow flew away. The other stayed, either braver or less intelligent. Inside, I called Judith. She answered on the 6th ring. If this is about my pain medication, I already took it. It wasn't, but now it is. I took it. At what time? Don't become your daughter. I sat at the dining table. Martin's mug held the pens in front of me. How's your shoulder? Attached. What's wrong? Why does something have to be wrong? You only call before lunch when you're worried. After lunch, you call when you're bored. I told her about the lock, the office, and the boxes. Judith listened without interrupting, which was how I knew she was angry. When I finished, she said, "When are they moving out?" They aren't. Yes, I know that. I'm asking when they are. They've been helping me, so hire someone to clean your gutters and let those 2 find an apartment. It isn't that simple. It's exactly that simple. It just isn't easy. I glanced at the study door. Claire thinks I'm stuck. Are you? I don't know. Well, don't let her answer for you. Martin did hide in that room. Martin hid everywhere. Sometimes he hid at the dinner table. That's unfair. Probably. My shoulder hurts. I smiled despite myself. Judith sighed. Claire loves you. She also likes being right more than is healthy for a person with blood pressure. She gets that from Martin. She gets it from both of you. He thought he was right, and you thought you knew how everyone ought to feel about it. Before I could answer, the garage door began to rise. They're home, I said. Ask when they're moving. I'm not asking that. Then ask when you're getting your room back. We hung up as the interior door opened. Ross entered first, carrying the green-shaded lamp. Claire followed with Martin's sweater folded over both arms. We thought we'd start now, Ross said. The lamp looked smaller against his chest. Where do you want this? Before I could answer, Claire raised the sweater to her face. It was a quick motion, almost secretive, but she breathed in against the worn wool. Then her shoulders changed. She lowered it and stared at a loose thread near the cuff. It doesn't smell like him anymore, she said. Ross looked at me. I took the sweater from her carefully. "No," I said. "It doesn't." Claire wiped beneath one eye with the side of her thumb. Then she bent, picked up another box, and carried it into the house. Ross followed her with the lamp. "Where do you want it?" he asked again. My first impulse was to say the dining room. I had already imagined it beside Martin's mug, creating a little island of him on the drop-leaf table. Then I pictured Ross stretching comfortably across the study while my husband's things crowded the room where we ate. "In the study," I said. Claire stopped. Ross adjusted the lamp against his chest. "Okay." "Where in the study?" Claire asked. "On the desk, where it was. The monitors are there. They can move." Ross looked from her to me. "They can move." "You have a call at 2, Claire reminded him. "I can use the dining room for one afternoon. Or we could put the lamp in the dining room." I lifted Martin's sweater from my arms and draped it over the back of his old chair, which was no longer his old chair because it was now apparently Ross's ergonomic workplace. "The lamp goes in the study," I said. Ross went first, carrying it down the hallway. The door stood open and I followed him inside. The room smelled wrong. Not bad, just wrong. Martin's study had smelled of paper, dust, coffee, and the cedar blocks I slipped into the bottom desk drawer every spring. Now it smelled faintly of warm plastic and Ross's peppermint gum. His monitors covered most of the desk. A keyboard rested where Martin used to stack unopened mail, and cables hung down the back like black vines. The plastic cactus had been moved to the windowsill. Ross unplugged one monitor. "And you don't have to dismantle everything?" Claire said from the doorway. "I'm creating space. You need both screens. I need to remain alive until dinner more." I pretended not to hear that. He shifted the second monitor to the far end and set the lamp on the left side of the desk. Its green shade threw a familiar pool of light over the scarred wood. The sight of it there, squeezed beside all that black equipment, was both comforting and ridiculous. Martin would have hated the monitors. He would also have been fascinated by them and asked Ross 17 questions while claiming not to care. "Thank you," I said. Ross nodded. "I'll bring in the books." Claire had already opened the box she carried. "We should check them first." "We can check them in here," I said. She lowered the box onto the rug. It landed with a heavy thump. This is exactly why I wanted to sort everything in the garage. Because books make noise when placed on rugs? Because there isn't room. There had been room before she emptied it. I sat in Martin's chair. The seat had been raised so high my feet barely touched the floor. I found the lever and dropped several inches with an undignified jerk. Ross turned quickly to hide a smile. "Go ahead," I told him. It was funny. A little. Claire knelt beside the box and began taking out books. Martin had arranged his shelves according to a system he refused to explain. Presidential biographies lived beside detective novels. Gardening books shared space with a history of naval warfare. When I once asked why a cookbook was wedged between 2 volumes about the Civil War, he said, "Both involve onions." Claire held up a paperback with a swollen cover. "This one has mildew. Put it aside. It can spread." Then put it aside farther away. She placed it near the door. We worked without speaking for a few minutes. Ross carried in 2 more boxes, then retreated to the dining room with his laptop. Every so often, his voice drifted toward us. "No, Steve. I'm not saying we can't adjust the timeline. I'm asking whether time itself has agreed." Claire smiled despite herself. "He's good at his job," I said. "He'd be better if people listened the first 6 times. He'd be unemployed if they did." She slid a row of books onto the lowest shelf. "That's true." The next book she lifted was a cheap paperback thriller with a red bridge on the cover. She stared at it. I gave him this. I remember. He told me the plot was insulting. He complained about it for 3 days. He read it? I looked at the cracked spine. Apparently. Claire opened to the middle. Several page corners had been folded down. Martin hated folded corners. He believed they were evidence of moral decay. He said he couldn't get past the first chapter, she said. Maybe he tried again. He could have told me. He probably didn't want to admit he liked it. That would have been a terrible burden. She flipped through the pages. There were no written messages, no sudden confession hiding in the margins. Only a few pencil lines beneath sentences Martin had found interesting, and a greasy thumbprint near the end. Claire closed the book. "Keep or donate?" I asked. She set it in the keep pile without answering. Another box contained desk things: 2 staplers, rubber bands fused into brittle knots, hotel pens, batteries of uncertain age, and a magnifying glass Martin insisted was better than stronger reading glasses. Claire threw away the batteries. I kept one stapler and discarded the other. She looked at me when I dropped it into the trash bag. "What?" "Nothing." "You thought I'd keep both." "I didn't say that. You have your father's face. I have my own face." "Yes, but you're using his." She exhaled through her nose. "Do you want the dried-up markers?" "No." "The cracked ruler?" "No." 3 takeout menus from a restaurant that closed 8 years ago? "Obviously. Those are historical records." She looked up sharply and caught me smiling. "You're impossible," she said. "Put them in the trash." By the time Ross appeared in the doorway, we had filled half a garbage bag and cleared 2 boxes. He held his headset in one hand. "I need the room from 2 to 3. Claire checked her watch. "We can finish this box in the garage." Ross looked at me. Would that be okay? It was such a carefully constructed question that saying no would have made me childish. "Yes." "We're getting a sign for the door," Claire said. "What kind of sign?" "Something that says, when he's on a confidential call. A closed door usually says that. The door was closed yesterday, and locked. Because you have a key that no longer works." Ross rubbed his forehead. "I'm going to make a copy today. I want the old lock restored." "I know." "I threw out the cylinder, but I can buy the same kind." Claire stood and brushed dust from her knees. "Why does it have to be the same one?" "Because it was changed without asking me." "So if we ask now, can the new one stay?" "No." She picked up the mildew-damaged book. "That makes no sense." "It doesn't have to make sense to you." "There it is." "What?" "The final word. Your house, your room, your lock." I stared at her. "Whose house did you think it was?" "That's not what I meant. It's what you said." Ross stepped between us without actually stepping between us. He placed one hand on the door frame as if holding up the wall. "I'll replace the lock," he said. "Same style, brass cylinder, 2 keys. Done." "1 key," Claire said. 2 come in the package. She'll lose one." I almost laughed because the alternative was throwing a stapler. I've carried the same house key for 36 years. "You lost your car keys in April. They were in the refrigerator." "That is not a defense. I was putting away groceries. You found them next to the mustard." "Then they weren't lost. I knew where the mustard was." Ross's mouth twitched. Claire saw it. "Don't encourage her." He put both hands up. 2 keys. 1 can live in a drawer. Nobody has to carry the burden of abundance. His call began before Claire could reply. We carried the open box into the hallway and he closed the study door. He did not lock it. For the next hour, Claire and I sorted at the dining table. The work was slower there because each object seemed to require a hearing. Martin's reading glasses stayed. A dried bottle of correction fluid went. A silver letter opener stayed, though neither of us received letters. A stack of blank legal pads stayed after I took 4, and Claire took 2. The green sweater remained over the study chair. Every time Ross's voice rose behind the closed door, I could see one sleeve through the glass panel. Near the bottom of the box, Claire found an old wooden puzzle shaped like a cube. Martin used to pull it apart when he was thinking, then leave the pieces scattered until someone else reassembled them. "Trash," she said. "Keep. It's missing a piece. It was always missing a piece. Then it isn't a puzzle. It's kindling. You gave it to him." "No," Aunt Judith did. "I still want it." Claire dropped it into the keep pile. "This is how houses become museums. Your father's entire life currently fits in 12 boxes. His entire life isn't in those boxes. That's what I said about the mug. You said not everything has to be useful. I said that too. You have a sentence for every occasion. Your father said I did. The moment his name entered the room, the air shifted. Claire folded the flaps of the empty box inward. You always do that, she said. Do what? Make him the referee. I was remembering something. You remember him as agreeing with you a lot. He frequently didn't, not out loud to me. I touched the wooden puzzle. One piece slid loose beneath my thumb. Before I could answer, the study door opened. Ross stepped out, looking dazed. Steve has discovered a fourth way to say the same thing. Claire stood. Lunch? It's 3:15, late lunch. I'd eat the wooden puzzle. I'm keeping that, I said. He looked at the object beneath my hand. Then I'll have soup. Claire gathered the trash bag. I'll put this in the outside bin. Let me check it first. Her whole body went still. I'm not accusing you, I said. It sounds exactly like you're accusing me. I want to make sure nothing fell in by mistake. She dropped the bag beside my chair. Go ahead. There was nothing in it except what we had agreed to discard. I knew that before I looked. I checked anyway. Claire walked into the kitchen while I was still crouched over the bag. Ross remained by the table. That cost you something, he said quietly. So did the lock. I'm replacing it. This isn't about your trip to the hardware store, I know. He glanced toward the kitchen. Claire was opening and closing cabinets with more force than lunch required. She thinks if she stops managing things, something bad will happen, he said. Something bad already happened. Yes. He didn't tell me which thing he meant. The new brass key appeared beside my plate at dinner. Ross had attached a white paper tag to it with the word office printed in careful block letters. I turned it over in my hand. Study, I said. What? Claire asked. The tag. Ross took the key back, crossed out office, and wrote study beneath it. Claire gave a tired laugh. Wonderful. Peace in our time. I slipped the key off the paper ring and added it to my keychain. It was brighter than the others and cut more sharply along the edge. After midnight, I went downstairs to test it. The key turned smoothly. I opened the door and found the green lamp glowing. Claire sat in Martin's chair with her feet tucked beneath her, reading the paperback thriller she had given him. She looked up but did not close it. Couldn't sleep? I asked. I wanted to see what he underlined. Anything useful? No. I stepped inside. That sounds like him. She ran her finger along the edge of the book. Did he ever talk about me in here? The easy answer rose first. All the time. I could have said it, and she might even have believed me. Instead, I closed the door behind me and sat down. Not enough, I said. Claire stared at me over the top of the book. The lamp gave her face the same strange shadows it used to give Martin's. It made people look as if they were keeping something even when they weren't. What does that mean? It means he talked about you. Just not enough. That sounds like something people say at funerals. You ask me a hard question. I asked a simple one. Simple questions are usually the dangerous kind. She shut the paperback around one finger to keep her place. What did he say? I looked at the shelves. Some of the books were back, but gaps remained where Ross's work binders and equipment had taken over. Martin's magnifying glass sat on the desk beside the plastic cactus. The two objects seemed to be studying each other. He worried about you, I said. Dad worried about traffic and sodium. That doesn't count. He worried you worked too much. He told me work built character. He changed his mind depending on whether he was talking about himself. That sounds more accurate. He was proud of you. Claire's expression did not change. For what? For being able to make decisions. He hated my decisions. He admired that you made them. That is an impressive piece of translation. I'm not translating. You spent 40 years translating him. Her voice was quiet. That made the words harder to wave away. I folded my hands in my lap. Sometimes people need help saying what they mean. Did he? Yes. Or did you need to believe he meant something better? A floorboard creaked upstairs. We both looked toward the ceiling, but Ross did not come down. I said, Your father loved you. I know he loved me. Then what are you asking? Whether he liked me? The question landed between us with none of the drama Claire usually distrusted. She wasn't crying now. She wasn't angry. She looked almost embarrassed. Of course he liked you. When? That's a ridiculous question. Is it? I thought of Martin at the dinner table correcting Claire's pronunciation of a town she had actually visited. Martin taking her side in an argument and doing it so sarcastically she had not realized until later. Martin asking me whether Claire and Ross seemed happy, then changing the subject when I asked why he wanted to know. He liked talking to you, I said. He liked winning. So did you. I learned from an expert. I leaned back. The guest chair in the study was lower than I remembered, or perhaps I had become more aware of the effort required to stand up from it. He asked me once why you never called him just to talk, I said. Claire blinked. When? A few years ago. You had called me about something, and afterward he asked why you always called my phone. What did you tell him? I said you probably assumed I'd put you on speaker. That's what you told him? Yes. Not that maybe I wanted him to call me? You could have called him, too. Her laugh had no humor in it. There she is. What does that mean? It means somehow the bridge was always supposed to be built from my side. You were both stubborn. He was my father, and you were his daughter. Those facts lasted your whole lives. Neither of you used them very well. She opened the book again, but didn't look down. Did he know I was angry with him? Yes. What did he say? I should have softened it. Instead, perhaps because she had accused me of translating, I gave her Martin's exact words. He said you'd get over it. Claire's face went still. I told him that wasn't good enough, I added, but he didn't call. No, and you let that be the end of it. I couldn't make him pick up a phone. No, you could just make the rest of us pretend it didn't hurt. I stood too quickly. The room shifted for half a second, and I put my hand on the desk. Claire was out of the chair immediately. Are you dizzy? I stood up fast. Sit back down. I'm fine. Mom, don't turn this into blood pressure because you don't like the conversation. Her hand hovered near my elbow. She let it fall. I'm not trying to manage you. You are always trying to manage me. Because you act like needing anything is a personal failure. Where would I have learned that? We stared at each other. Upstairs, the plumbing groaned. Ross's footsteps crossed the bedroom, paused, then returned in the other direction. He was giving us privacy with remarkable effort. Claire set the paper back on the desk. I'm going to bed. Take the book. I don't want it. You put it in the keep pile. I changed my mind. She left it beneath the lamp and walked out. I stayed in the study until my legs felt steady, though dizziness was no longer the reason. Before turning off the lamp, I opened the paperback to where Claire's finger had marked the page. Martin had underlined one sentence in pencil. It was about a man mistaking silence for patience. I closed the book without reading further. Coffee tasted bitter the following morning, though Ross made it exactly the way I liked. Claire had already left for work. Her bowl sat rinsed in the drying rack, and the old mug still held 3 pens on the dining table. Ross placed a piece of toast beside my cup. I can make my own breakfast. I know. I made too much toast. There are 2 slices. I'm ambitious. I took one. He sat across from me. She told me you talked. That is technically true. She didn't tell me what about. That is unusually restrained. He glanced toward the study. I'm putting the old-style lock in today. You found one? Same manufacturer. Same finish. It'll look like the original. Thank you. 2 keys. I've been warned. He smiled, then rubbed his thumb along the edge of his plate. She misses him. I know. She's angry that she misses him. I know that, too. She's also angry with herself for being angry that she misses him. Ross, I raised her. You don't have to explain the architecture. I live in the building. That shut me up. He finished his coffee and stood. There's one more thing. Those are dangerous words before 8. I ordered a chair for the office. The study. I ordered it before you came home. It's being delivered Friday. What's wrong with Martin's chair? It's 30 years old and makes my right leg numb. That does seem undesirable. I can cancel the order. I looked toward the green sweater draped over the chair. Keeping it there because Martin had used it would not make Ross's leg less numb. No, keep the chair. You're sure? Yes. We can put Martin's chair somewhere else. Where? Ross considered that longer than he should have. Exactly, I said. He went to work. I took my toast and coffee into the living room, where the basket of gray blankets sat in Martin's old corner, like a soft monument to surrender. I picked it up. It was heavier than it looked. Claire had moved Martin's chair to the basement months earlier. She had asked first, though she asked while 2 furniture movers were standing in the driveway. At the time, I had said yes, because the chair made my chest ache whenever I passed it. I carried the basket into the hall, then went downstairs. The basement smelled of laundry detergent and stone. Martin's chair stood beneath a dust cover near the furnace room. I pulled off the cover and found the brown fabric faded along the arms. One cushion sagged more than the other. A white streak marked the side where somebody had scraped it against the basement wall. It was not a beautiful chair. I sat in it anyway. The cushion released a small breath of dust. My knees rose higher than they used to, and a spring pressed against the back of my thigh. Martin had spent entire Sundays in that chair, claiming to read while falling asleep every 8 minutes. I laughed aloud. Then I called a furniture repair shop and asked whether they could replace a spring. The woman said they could collect the chair on Friday. I gave her the address before I could ask Claire if Friday was convenient. When Claire came home, she found me in the kitchen chopping carrots. You're cooking? That's the rumor. I was going to make pasta. You can make it tomorrow. She set her bag on a chair. Did Ross install the lock? Yes. Does it meet historical preservation standards? I'm waiting for a committee report. She opened the refrigerator and took out sparkling water. He told me about the chair. I said he could keep it. I mean, Dad's chair. What about it? You're having it repaired? Friday. Where are you putting it? In the living room. The basket is there. The basket can survive displacement. Claire twisted the cap off her bottle. You asked me to move that chair. I know. You said you couldn't stand looking at it. I changed my mind. You can't keep changing your mind every time you're upset with me. I put down the knife. Are you listening to yourself? I'm saying this reaction is about the study. This reaction is me deciding I want my chair upstairs. Dad's chair, my chair now. She took a drink, watching me over the bottle. Fine, she said. That one word contained an entire slammed door. Ross came in carrying 2 paint sample cards. I got the lock, he announced. And before anyone panics, these are for the guest bathroom. Claire took the samples from him. The lighter one. I like the darker one, I said. You haven't even looked. I'm practicing making decisions. Ross slowly lowered his keys onto the counter. At dinner, the 3 of us discussed paint as if it were international policy. Ross ate 2 helpings of stew. Claire ate half of one. When I mentioned that the furniture shop was coming Friday morning, she reminded me that my cardiology appointment was Thursday. I remember. I can take you. I'll take myself. You don't know where the new office is. I have the address. Parking is awful. Then I'll leave early. Claire's spoon touched the bottom of her bowl. Why are you doing this? Eating, turning everything into a contest. I wasn't aware driving to an appointment had a winner. You're trying to prove you don't need us. I'm trying to do things I did before you decided I couldn't. Ross stopped chewing. Claire looked at him. Say something. He swallowed. I think your mother can drive herself. You're missing the point. What is the point? I asked. The point is that we arranged our lives to be here for you, and I am grateful. You keep saying grateful like it's the final payment on a debt. What would be enough? I don't know. Maybe stop treating us like intruders. The new brass key rested on my key ring beside my plate. I touched it with one finger. How long were you planning to stay? Claire's eyes shifted to Ross. Not much. Barely a movement. But I saw it. Ross set down his spoon. We hadn't picked an exact date, he said. Claire folded her napkin into a smaller and smaller square. We thought at least through the end of the year, she said. Probably longer. It was the word probably that changed the room, not because they had made a plan, because they had made it without me. Probably longer than what? I asked. Claire unfolded the napkin she had been crushing and laid it flat. Longer than the end of the year. That isn't an answer. We don't have an answer. You just said you made a plan. I said we discussed it. With each other. Ross leaned forward. We should have talked to you. Yes, we thought we were helping. You are helping. That doesn't mean you move into somebody's home indefinitely and hope she forgets to ask. Claire pushed her bowl away. You told us there was no hurry. There wasn't. That was different from there being no end. What changed? My key stopped working. Ross looked down. Claire didn't. So, this is punishment. It is not punishment to ask two adults how long they intend to live in my house. You weren't asking before. I trusted that you would tell me. We didn't know. You still don't, because there are things to consider. Ross's job, rent, your appointments, the fact that you fell 11 months ago. You could fall again, so could you. That's not the same. Why? Are your floors softer? She stood and carried her bowl to the sink. You know what I mean? I do. That's why I don't like it. Ross collected the serving dish, though it still contained enough stew for 2 lunches. He held it between us like an offering. Could we agree to talk this weekend? He asked. Not tonight. Not while everybody's upset. I'm not upset, Claire said. He looked at her. Fine, she said. I'm upset. I'd like a real date, I told them. Claire turned from the sink. For us to leave. For us to discuss when you're leaving. That sounds like the same thing with an extra meeting. It's a beginning. She crossed her arms. And if we don't want to go yet? The question was so direct that, for once, I had nothing prepared. Ross put the stew in the refrigerator. This weekend, he said again. Claire left the kitchen. A minute later, the study door opened and shut. She's in the study, I said. Yes, your study. He pressed both palms against the counter. Evelyn. It was the first time he had used my name that night. I know this is your house, he said. I know we've gotten comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. But Claire didn't stay because she wanted a free bedroom and access to your cookware. She hates my cookware. She hates one skillet. She's wrong about it. The handle turns. You tighten it. He nodded. That's what I do. The humor left his face almost immediately. She stayed because after your fall, she was afraid, he said. Then you started doing better, but every time we talked about looking for a place, something happened. Your blood pressure went up. You stopped driving at night. You forgot that pan on the stove. I did not forget it. I was simmering broth. For 2 hours? That's how broth works. The pot was empty. I looked toward the hallway. Did she tell you that? I smelled it from upstairs. I remembered the blackened ring on the bottom of the pot. I had thrown it away before Claire saw, or thought I had. One burned pot doesn't make me incompetent. No, it makes you a person who burned a pot. And a fall makes me a person who fell. Yes. Then why does every ordinary mistake become evidence? Because we love you and don't want to miss the mistake that isn't ordinary. It was a fair answer. I disliked it on contact. Ross took his water bottle from the table. Drive yourself tomorrow, he said. Call if you need anything. We'll talk this weekend. Where are you sleeping? In my bed, if Claire lets me. I meant since she's in the study. I'm optimistic. He kissed my cheek before leaving, which was unfair. It's hard to maintain a satisfying anger against someone who smells faintly of dish soap and kisses you goodnight. I cleaned the kitchen alone. Claire remained behind the closed study door. She did not lock it. I knew because I tried the handle as I passed, though I did not go in. On the counter the next morning, she had left directions to the cardiology office, a bottle of water, and a granola bar. The note said, "Parking entrance is on Willow, not Main. No love you, no heart." I put the note in my purse anyway. The drive took 18 minutes. Parking did turn out to be awful, and the entrance was on Willow. I arrived early enough to sit in the waiting room and watch a television chef prepare something with kale, while the sound remained muted. My appointment was uneventful. My blood pressure was a little high when the nurse first checked it, and normal when she checked again. The doctor adjusted nothing, prohibited nothing, and told me to keep walking. "So I can drive?" I asked. He looked at me over his glasses. "Did somebody say you couldn't?" "No." "Then yes." I almost asked him to write that down. Instead, I thanked him and left. Rather than going straight home, I drove to Judith's. She opened the door with her left arm still strapped against her chest. Her gray hair stood up on one side. "You look electrocuted," I said. "You look smug." My heart continues to function. Show off. She let me in. Her house was smaller than mine and always warmer. She kept 3 clocks in the living room, none of which agreed. A stack of mystery novels occupied the arm of her couch, and a mug of cold tea balanced on a coaster shaped like a lemon. I showed her how Claire had organized the pain medication in a pill box identical to mine. "She mailed this to me," Judith said, "with instructions." "Did the envelope contain your dignity?" "No, postage was insufficient." I sat across from her and told her about the proposed stay through the end of the year, probably longer. Judith listened, then reached for her tea with the wrong hand. I passed it to her. "What did you say?" she asked. "That we're discussing it this weekend. And what do you want?" "I want them to ask." "That's not what I asked." "I don't know." She drank the cold tea and made a face. "I like having them there," I admitted. "The house doesn't sound dead. Houses don't sound dead. They sound empty." "Thank you, greeting card." "You're welcome." "I like coffee already made. I like hearing Ross curse at the printer. I like knowing Claire is upstairs, even when I'm angry with her. Then ask them to stay. I don't want them deciding they've stayed." Judith nodded. "There it is. There what is. The difference." She set down the tea. "You've spent your life making people comfortable and then resenting that they're comfortable. That's not fair. It's extremely fair. You're just related to me." Martin didn't need much. Judith laughed so hard she winced and grabbed her shoulder. "Don't do that," I said. "Then stop being hilarious." He was low maintenance. He had an entire room nobody could enter without diplomatic clearance. I had a key, yes. You were Switzerland. I got up and carried her tea to the kitchen before I said something unkind to an injured woman. When I returned, Judith had picked up one of her mystery novels. "You don't have to throw Claire out," she said. "You do have to stop waiting for her to guess where your line is. She should know changing the lock crossed it. She should. She didn't. Now what?" "I don't know." "Then figure it out before the weekend." On my drive home, I stopped for coffee, even though I didn't want any. I sat alone at a small table and watched traffic move through the intersection. Nobody knew where I was. Nobody needed to know. The freedom felt childish and wonderful. Claire's car was in the driveway when I got home. She met me in the kitchen. "How did it go?" "Fine." "What did he say about your blood pressure?" "It was normal." "Any medication changes?" "No." "Did you eat?" I had coffee. That wasn't my question. I had the granola bar. Her shoulders lowered 1/2 inch. "Okay." I went to Judith's. "You could have told me." "I just did. I meant before." "I know." She looked at my purse, probably imagining the directions folded inside. "I'm glad everything was normal," she said. "Thank you for the note." "You're welcome." We stood in a truce too narrow for either of us to turn around. Then the doorbell rang. 2 men were outside with an enormous black office chair wrapped in plastic. At the same moment, a truck from the furniture repair shop pulled into the driveway to collect Martin's chair. For 10 minutes, chairs passed each other through my front door like ships changing harbors. The new one had a mesh back, adjustable arms, and enough levers to operate farm equipment. Martin's came upstairs under its dust cover, looking smaller and shabbier with every step. Claire touched the white scrape on its side. "That happened when we moved it downstairs," she said. "It can be fixed. It's going to cost more than the chair is worth. Only if the chair's value is determined by the chair. The repairman glanced at us and wisely pretended to examine a wheel on his dolly. Claire removed her hand. Where will it go when it comes back? The living room. Right. The repairman took it away. The office chair went into the study. Ross arrived downstairs during the assembly and sat in it while one of the delivery men adjusted the height. How does it feel? Claire asked. Like I'm being supported by a very judgmental net. Even I laughed. By late afternoon, the old-style brass lock had been installed. 2 keys hung from a string around the inside knob. Ross took one. I took the other and removed the paper tag. Claire taped a handwritten schedule to the door. Calls 9, 12, and 1, 4, please knock. I read it twice. You said you wanted to know when he needs privacy, she said. I said I understand what a closed door means. You also said you need access. I do. So you have access. Except 6 hours a day, while he's working. That's reasonable, Ross said from his new chair. It was reasonable. That irritated me nearly as much as the lock. I tapped the paper. No locked door after 4. Claire's eyebrows rose. He might have a late call. Then he can tell me. Why? Because I live here. So do we. The hallway went quiet. Ross turned his new chair slowly toward us. Claire looked at the schedule, not at me. Yes, I said. That is exactly what we need to discuss this weekend. I walked away before either of them could decide I had meant something else. Behind me, the study door closed. It did not lock. I went to my bedroom and removed my earrings, though I had not been wearing earrings. My fingers searched my earlobes twice before I noticed. A soft knock came 10 minutes later. Come in. Claire opened the door but stayed in the hallway. What did you mean? You'll have to narrow it down. When you said we need to discuss living here, I meant we need to discuss living here. So you want us out. I want a conversation that doesn't begin with you telling me what I want. You asked how long we were staying. Yes. That question has a direction. Most questions do. She stepped into the bedroom. We moved in because you needed us. I did. You asked us to stay. I said you could. That's a very convenient distinction. It's an important one. To you. It should be important to anyone living in someone else's house. Her jaw tightened. There. You did it again. What? Made us sound like strangers who came in off the street. I did not say strangers. You said someone else's house. It is someone else's house. It's your house. I'm your daughter. Both things are true. Claire looked toward the open suitcase I still had not completely unpacked. A pair of socks lay on top, accusing me of disorder. I don't want to fight in your bedroom, she said. You followed me here. I wanted to know if you were throwing us out. I'm not. Her shoulders relaxed, then tightened again as if she didn't trust the relief. But this cannot continue without a plan, I added. There it is. There what is? The word after but. You can erase anything with it. Saturday morning, we'll sit down, all 3 of us. Like a performance review? If that helps Ross feel comfortable. It won't. She turned to leave. Claire. She stopped. I'm not trying to erase what you've done for me. You're doing a pretty good imitation. The door remained open after she walked away. Saturday morning, Ross brought a legal pad to the dining table. Claire stared at it. Absolutely not. It's for notes. We're discussing where we live, not installing a drainage system. Drainage systems benefit from notes. He set the pad beside his coffee. I sat across from them with Martin's mug and my 3 pens. I had washed the mug again and put a folded napkin beneath it to catch the leak. Claire noticed. You know that's going to stain the table. The table has survived gravy. Gravy wipes up. So does water. Ross lifted his coffee. I'm going to begin by observing that we've already chosen sides based on beverage containers. Nobody laughed. He lowered the cup. Okay. Evelyn, what do you need? Claire looked at him. Why does she go first? Because it's her house. The words hurt Claire even though they were the words I wanted. Ross saw it. That wasn't meant to diminish us. It did, she said. He turned the legal pad sideways but did not write. I folded my hands. I need to be asked before anything in the house is changed. Anything? Claire said. Anything that isn't yours. So I need permission to move a blender? If it's my blender. The blender was in a cabinet you couldn't reach. I have a step stool. The step stool is why I moved the blender. And now every morning I look for it where it used to be. It has been on the lower shelf for 8 months. I know where you put it. That isn't the same as my hand knowing. Ross glanced at the legal pad, clearly desperate to write something. Ask before changing shared spaces, he offered. I nodded. Fine. Claire said nothing. The study is available for your work, I continued, but outside work hours it is not your private room. Ross nodded. Agreed. I want the rest of Martin's things brought inside before anything leaves this property. We have nowhere to put 12 boxes inside, Claire said. Then we go through them in the garage together. We started that, and we'll continue. Fine. No selling or donating anything unless we both agree. Her mouth twisted. You don't trust me. I found your gift to your father in a donate box. It leaks. It's leaking right now, which proves my point. My point is that we remembered it differently. You shouldn't have had the only vote. She looked at the faded lettering but did not answer. Ross finally wrote something. What did you put? Claire asked. Joint decisions on Martin's things. Don't use the word joint. It sounds legal. He crossed it out. I also want to handle my own appointments, I said. If I ask for a ride, that's different. What happens when you don't ask and you need one? I call. You hate calling for help. I'll practice. And if you fall again? What happens if you fall? Stop saying that. Then stop making my age sound like a weather emergency. Ross placed the pen across the pad. Claire, what do you need? She leaned back and stared out the window. 2 sparrows fought over the feeder while a third watched from the hedge. I need not to be treated like hired help who exceeded her contract. I don't treat you like hired help. No. Hired help gets a clear schedule. That isn't fair. Neither is pretending we just wandered in and took over. I slept on the floor beside your bed because you kept waking up and forgetting Dad was dead. Ross looked down. I remembered those nights. Not all of them, which was worse. I remembered waking with Claire's hand around mine. I remembered asking why Martin hadn't come upstairs. I did not remember asking more than once. You washed me, I said quietly. Claire's face changed. When I couldn't lift my leg into the shower, you washed me. You made soup I didn't eat. You answered people when I couldn't stand hearing them say they were sorry. I know what you did. Then why does it feel like you're building a case against me? Because you started deciding that helping me made my decisions yours. She looked away. Ross rubbed his palms together. We also need to be honest that living here helped us. Claire turned sharply. What is that supposed to mean? It means rent is expensive. My commute disappeared. We've saved money. We're not martyrs. I never said we were. You keep talking like we gave everything up. We changed our entire life. So did Evelyn. Don't call her Evelyn when you're taking her side. I'm not taking sides. You literally began this meeting by assigning her the winning argument. There is no winning argument. There always is with her. I felt Martin's old retort rise in my throat. Only when I'm right. I swallowed it. I don't want to win, I said. I want to know this arrangement has an end. Claire looked at me. Why? Because if it doesn't, this stops being my home. That is ridiculous, is it? We live in 2 rooms. You live in every room. Your food is in the kitchen. Your blankets are in the living room. Your husband works in the study. Your mail comes here. So we should behave like guests forever? No. You should behave like family who knows they were invited. The dining room clock clicked behind us. Ross picked up the pen. We should start looking at apartments again. Claire stared at him. He met her eyes. Not today. Not as punishment. But we should. You told me there was no rush. There wasn't until there was. You want to leave? I want us to have our own place eventually. This is our own place. No. he said gently. It isn't. Claire stood and walked to the kitchen. She opened a cabinet, closed it, then opened the refrigerator without taking anything out. I hated the relief I felt at hearing Ross say it. I hated that she had heard my position more clearly from her husband than from me. How long? She asked without turning around. Ross looked at me. I had imagined this moment since Judith asked the question. In those private rehearsals, I chose a date with confidence. I explained it kindly. Claire resisted, but I remained calm and certain. Now all I could see was the empty hallway after they left. I'm not asking you to pack today, I said. That wasn't my question. 3 months, Ross suggested. We look, we make a decision. A decision about whether to move or when to move, I asked. He hesitated. Claire laughed once. There's your answer. I looked at her back. In 3 months, we choose a move-out date. She turned around. And until then, we live together with clear boundaries. Your boundaries. Our boundaries, Ross said. Stop helping. He leaned back in his chair. Claire returned to the table but did not sit. Fine. 3 months. It was not agreement. It was a dare. Ross wrote the date on the legal pad. Then, after a moment, he tore off the page and folded it in half. Should I put this somewhere? He asked. No, Claire and I said together. He crumpled it, and despite everything, we both smiled. The meeting ended without a hug, a slammed door, or any of the clean signals people use in stories to show who has won. Claire took her coffee upstairs. Ross washed his cup. I sat at the table beside a leaking mug and wondered why getting what I asked for felt so much like cowardice. 3 months was not an end. It was permission to postpone one. We returned to the garage that afternoon. Claire opened boxes without comment. She held up each object and waited for my answer. The patience was so exaggerated it became its own form of anger. Keep? Yes. Keep? No. Keep? What is it? A cable. For what? Nobody alive knows. Throw it away. She dropped it into the trash. We discarded old calendars, dry pens, a broken shoehorn, and an electric razor Martin had stopped using long before he died. I kept fewer things than Claire expected. I could tell by the pause before each item hit the trash bag. When we reached the donate box, she lifted out the brown mug. Keep, I said. I know. She placed it beside me instead of back in the box. Later, while I carried books into the study, she disappeared into the basement. I assumed she wanted to be alone. When she returned, she set the mug on the dining table. A fresh line of clear sealant covered the crack near the bottom. I had waterproof epoxy, she said. You fixed it? Don't use it for coffee yet. It needs a day. I thought it was useless. It was leaking on the table. She walked away before I could thank her. That evening, I heard voices through the study door. Ross and Claire were arguing quietly enough that I could have passed without making out the words. I should have. Instead, I stopped. We agreed to 3 months, Ross said. She agreed because she thinks we'll leave before then. We probably should. You don't understand. I'm trying to. If we go, she'll close that door and sit in here every day. Maybe she will. She'll disappear into this room just like he did. There was a pause. Then Ross said, Claire, you're the one who changed the lock. I know, she whispered. Her voice broke on the second word. I stood in the hallway with my new key in my hand and did not open the door. For a few seconds, I considered knocking. Then Claire said, I shouldn't have touched his things. Ross answered too softly for me to hear. I walked upstairs. The repaired mug sat exactly where she had left it the next morning. I filled it with water and placed it on a dry paper towel. After 10 minutes, the paper remained dry. Claire entered while I was inspecting it. It worked, I said. I know how epoxy works. You didn't have to fix it. I know that too. She poured coffee into her breathe cup. I watched the pale blue word disappear behind her fingers. I heard you last night, I said. She stopped pouring. Not everything. Enough. The coffee reached the rim and spilled onto the counter. Damn it. She grabbed a towel and wiped around the cup. I wasn't listening on purpose. You were standing outside the door. I was passing, and then I stopped. That's called listening. You were talking about me. I was talking to my husband in my study." She slapped the wet towel into the sink. "You can't use the room as an excuse for everything." "I'm not." "You are. Every conversation comes back to that door because you changed the lock and changed it back. That doesn't undo why you did it." She looked at me. I almost told her I understood. I almost repeated what I had heard about her fear that I would disappear into the room. But understanding someone's fear does not make it less insulting to be managed by it. Before either of us spoke, Ross came downstairs with his laptop under one arm. "I found 3 apartments," he announced. Claire closed her eyes. He stopped near the table. "Bad timing?" "Historically bad," she said. He set the laptop down anyway. "They're all within 20 minutes. One has a second bedroom that could be an office." "I have to work," Claire said. "I'm showing them to Evelyn." "Why?" "Because she might enjoy seeing that we're doing what we agreed." I sat at the table. "Show me." Claire picked up her coffee. "Have fun." She left without breakfast. Ross opened the first listing. The apartment had gray floors, gray walls, and a gray kitchen that looked as if color had been prohibited by the lease. "Cheerful," I said. "It has a balcony." "The balcony is also gray. The building allows plants." How reckless of them. He smiled and clicked to the next one. It was smaller, but had a wide living room window and built-in bookshelves. "Claire would like those," I said. "I thought so." The third was above a restaurant. Ross said the apartment might smell like garlic. I told him that was the only feature worth paying for. He closed the laptop. "She doesn't want to look," he said. "Did she say that?" "She said all 3 are too far from her office, even though one is closer than this house." "Maybe she doesn't like gray." "She likes gray." "Have you seen our blankets?" I glanced at the basket in the living room. "What do you want?" I asked. "To stop answering that question incorrectly. Take your time. I want our own place. I also want Claire not to feel like I'm abandoning her here with me." "That isn't what she means, I know." He studied the closed laptop. "When her dad died, she got very good at having tasks. Food, calls, your appointments, our move. If she was doing something, she didn't have to decide how she felt. She felt angry. She understands anger. Yes, grief is less organized." From upstairs came the sharp sound of a drawer closing. "She can hear us," I said. "She can always hear us." Ross took the laptop into the study. At 9, the lock clicked. I looked at the handwritten schedule taped to the door, then went upstairs and found the bathing suit I had not worn in nearly a year. The recreation center still had my name in its computer. The woman at the front desk asked whether I wanted to renew for 1 month or 6. I nearly chose 1 out of habit. 1 month was cautious. 1 month did not presume too much about the person I might be by winter. 6, I said. In the locker room, I struggled with the combination lock for so long that a naked woman named Bev offered assistance. She had the straightforward confidence of someone who had stopped considering the possibility that the human body required an apology. "You're going past your number," she told me. "I'm aware of that now." She opened the lock in 4 seconds. The water aerobics class was already warming up when I entered the pool. The woman from the garden store waved from the shallow end. "Historical Society," she called. "Too much history." Her name was Denise. I remembered only after she reminded me twice. She saved a place beside her, though places in a pool have no boundaries, and an energetic man named Walter kept drifting into both of ours. Halfway through the class, my shoulders hurt, my hair was wet, and I had inhaled enough chlorine to clean the inside of my lungs. I was happier than I had been in weeks. Afterward, Denise invited me for coffee in the lobby. "Your husband used to wait for you, didn't he?" she asked. "Sometimes." He claimed he came for the vending machine. I remember him reading in that terrible chair. It was orange. It was violent. We drank paper cups of coffee beside a window while people came and went carrying gym bags. Denise talked about her partner's obsession with growing tomatoes indoors. I told her about Judith's shoulder and the 3 clocks in her living room. Neither of us discussed grief as a subject. It appeared in small places and left again. I did not check my phone until I reached the parking lot. 7 missed calls from Claire. 2 from Ross. A message from Claire read, "Where are you?" The next said, "Please answer." I called her from the driver's seat. "Where have you been?" she demanded. "Swimming." There was a pause. "Swimming where?" "At the recreation center. You didn't tell anyone. I didn't realize I needed a hall pass. I called your cardiologist." "You called my cardiologist?" "They wouldn't tell me anything." "Good." "Mom, your car was gone, your purse was gone, and you didn't answer for 3 hours. My phone was in a locker. You could have left a note. You left for work without announcing every destination. That's different. You keep saying that." "Because it is." I could hear her breathing. "I thought you might have been in an accident." "I wasn't. I know that now." "I'm sorry you were frightened." The apology made her quiet. "Are you coming home?" she asked. "After I buy groceries." "You went swimming before groceries?" "There are no rules." "Apparently." She hung up. I sat in the car with both hands on the steering wheel. The good feeling from the pool had drained away, leaving anger and a small, unwelcome guilt. When I got home, Claire was waiting at the kitchen table. Her phone lay in front of her. Ross stood at the counter slicing an apple so thinly it seemed to require medical training. "I told her people sometimes go out," he said. "Thank you, Ross," Claire replied. "That solved everything." I set the grocery bag down. I renewed my membership. "For how long?" 6 months. Her eyes moved to my wet hair. "You hated that class." "I hated Walter. He still drifts." "Who is Walter?" "A man with poor aquatic boundaries." Ross ate an apple slice to conceal a smile. Claire did not smile. "You could have told me." "I could have. I didn't think of it. That's the problem." "No, the problem is that you believe I'm required to think of you before I leave my own driveway. I live here. So does the mailman, according to your definition. Don't be cute. I'm not being cute." "I went swimming, Claire. You disappeared." The word hung there. I looked at Ross. He put down the knife. "I heard that part last night," I said. Claire's face changed. "You had no right. You were discussing what I might do if you left. I was worried. You decided that I would lock myself in the study and disappear. Wouldn't you?" "No. You sat in there at midnight. So did you." "I was reading Dad's book. I was talking to my daughter." "You never sat in there after he died?" "Of course I did. How often? Whenever I wanted." "That isn't an answer. It is the only answer you get." She stood. "This is what I mean. You hide things and call it privacy. Privacy is not hiding. It was to him. I am not your father. You spent your whole marriage protecting the same closed door." The kitchen became very still. Ross stepped back from the counter, but he did not leave. "I protected his quiet," I said. "You protected his comfort." "Yes." Claire had been prepared to argue. The agreement stopped her. I pulled out a chair and sat down. "I told myself he needed time to cool off," I said. "I told you not to push him, because pushing made him worse. I thought if I kept the house peaceful long enough, he would come out and say what he should have said. He never did, not often, and then you'd act like the fight was over. I know. You made me feel cruel for still being angry. I know that now." Her eyes filled, but her voice stayed hard. "Do you?" "Yes. I thought keeping peace was love. It was peace for him." The words hurt because they were true enough to deserve entry. "I'm sorry," I said. Ross looked away. Claire remained standing, one hand gripping the back of her chair. "For which part?" she asked. "For asking you to accept things I should have asked him to change." She sat slowly. The clock clicked. The refrigerator started humming. Ross resumed slicing the apple, though nobody wanted it anymore. Claire looked at the grocery bag. "Did you buy birdseed again?" "Milk. You were gone another hour for milk." I also bought rosemary. We have rosemary. Mine looked judgmental. Ross put an apple slice in his mouth and choked on a laugh. Claire's mouth trembled. For 1 second, I thought she might laugh too. Then she covered her face with both hands and began to cry. I reached across the table. She let me take one hand, but only one. After a while, she wiped her face and said, "I don't want to leave." I held her fingers. "I know. What happens if I still don't want to in 3 months?" There were kind answers. Easy answers. Answers that would have brought the room back to peace. I had spent most of my life choosing them. "We'll have a harder conversation," I said. Claire pulled her hand from mine and wiped her face with both palms. "At least you're honest," she said. "I'm trying. That's not the same as being good at it." "No." Ross slid the plate of apple slices toward us. "I would like to formally offer fruit to the peace process." Claire took one. I did too. The harder conversation hovered at the edge of the house after that, but for several days we managed not to invite it in. Claire began knocking before entering my bedroom, even when the door was open. I wrote water aerobics on the kitchen calendar with the times beneath it, and she did not ask me to text when I arrived. Ross unlocked the study at 4 each afternoon and rolled his new chair away from the desk so the old one, when it returned, would have room. We sorted 1 box a night. Claire and I became efficient enough that Martin's entire collection of mystery novels took only 20 minutes. She kept the paperback with the red bridge. I saw it on her nightstand when I passed the guest room, though she never mentioned it. The brown mug no longer leaked. I moved the 3 pens back into it and kept it on the dining table. Claire complained that 1 pen had no ink. I told her it had sentimental value. "You found it in a bank lobby," she said. We shared a moment. She threw it away while I watched, which made both of us laugh harder than the act deserved. Ross scheduled a viewing for the apartment with the built-in bookshelves. He and Claire went on a Tuesday evening while I made tomato soup. I tried not to look at the clock. I also tried not to imagine how quiet the upstairs would be without Claire opening drawers as if each had personally offended her. They returned after 8. "Well?" I asked. Claire removed her coat. The photographs were misleading. "How?" "The living room is tiny." "It's not tiny," Ross said. "You could touch both walls at once, if you were an albatross. The bedroom faces the parking lot with curtains. The kitchen has no pantry. It has cabinets. Not enough." "For what? Your emergency lentils?" Claire glared at him. "You said you didn't like it either. I said the bathroom fan was loud. It sounded like a helicopter. I'm not sleeping in the bathroom. You get up 3 times a night. I drink water. You drink water because you carry that enormous bottle like an emotional support object." He held up the stainless steel bottle. "It has never criticized a pantry." I turned back to the stove before they saw me smile. "We don't have to take the first place we see," Claire said. "No one said you did. It feels like there's a clock running." "There is," Ross said. She looked at me. I stirred the soup. 3 months was your agreement, too." "I remember." "Then why are you looking at her?" Ross asked. "I'm not. You are. You look at her every time you disagree with me, as if she's the judge. I thought she wanted to know how it went." "I do," I said, "but I'm not choosing your apartment." Claire opened the cabinet for bowls. "Good, because this one is out." Ross stood in the kitchen with his coat still on. "We said we'd discuss it. We just did." "No, you listed defects until the answer became obvious. They were real defects. So were the ones in this house." Her hand stopped on a bowl. Ross lowered his voice. "That came out wrong." "No, it didn't." She took 1 bowl and left the other 2 in the cabinet. Ross closed his eyes. "I'm going upstairs. Soup in 10 minutes, I said. I may be dead by then. You'll still need to eat." "Thank you." He went up. Claire set her bowl on the counter. "He thinks I'm refusing to move." "Are you?" "I didn't like the apartment." "That wasn't my question. You both use that line. He's very teachable." She leaned against the sink. "Did you like it? I saw 6 photographs." "You saw enough." "I liked the bookshelves." "Of course you did. What does that mean?" "It means you already put me there. My books on those shelves, Ross at his desk, everything neat and solved. I haven't put you anywhere. You want the end decided. I want an end to exist." She looked down at her empty bowl. "I'm not trying to make you leave tomorrow," I said. "You keep saying that as if it's generous." "What would feel generous? I don't know." The soup began to bubble. I lowered the heat. "Maybe nothing," she said. The repair shop returned Martin's chair on Friday. The brown fabric had been cleaned, the white scrape removed, and the broken spring replaced. It looked neither new nor ruined. It looked cared for. The same repairman brought it inside. Claire hovered near the front door while I directed him to the living room. "The basket can go downstairs," I said. "I'll take it," Ross offered. He lifted the gray blankets and carried them toward the basement. The repairman set the chair in its old corner and pressed both hands to the arms to test it. "Good frame," he said. "They don't build them like this." Claire glanced at me as if waiting for me to say something sentimental. "It weighs as much as a Buick," I said. The repairman laughed. "That too." After he left, I sat down. The repaired cushion held me higher. The arms felt smooth beneath my palms. Martin was absent from it in a way he had not been when it sat under dust in the basement. I had expected restoration to bring something back. Instead, it made the chair unmistakably mine. "How is it?" Ross asked. "Comfortable. Any springs attacking you?" "Not yet." Claire remained by the front door. "Try it," I said. "No, you can sit in a chair. I know how. Then demonstrate." She rolled her eyes but crossed the room. I stood and she lowered herself into the chair. Her body fit where Martin's had, but not in the same way. She tucked one leg beneath her and ran her hand over the repaired arm. "He never let me put my feet on this," she said. "He complained. He made me get up. You got back in as soon as he left." "I know." We smiled at the same memory from different sides. The chair looked good around her. "You can sit there whenever you want," I said. Her fingers paused on the fabric. "It's your chair." "Yes." She stood almost immediately. "Aunt Judith is coming at 6, right? If Ross remembers to pick her up." I set an alarm on his phone. "Of course you did." Judith arrived wearing her sling and carrying a bottle of wine she could not open one-handed. Ross held it while she complained about his driving. Claire made roast chicken. I handled the vegetables. For an hour, we were simply a family eating too much and interrupting one another. Judith inspected the repaired chair after dinner. "Martin loved this ugly thing," she said. "He had taste," I replied. "He had opinions. People confuse the two." Claire handed her another glass of wine. "Careful. You're injured. My shoulder is injured. My liver remains independent." Ross laughed. Then Judith asked, "How was the apartment?" Every muscle around Claire's mouth tightened. "It wasn't right," she said. "The one with the bookshelves?" "Yes. I like that one." "You saw the listing?" "Evelyn sent it to me." Claire turned toward me. "You sent it to Aunt Judith?" she asked. "When?" "When I told her you were looking. You're discussing our move with other people?" "Judith is not other people." "I am delighted to be promoted," Judith said. "This is private," Claire told her. Judith sipped her wine. "Then why am I at dinner?" Ross looked at his plate. I said, "She asked how things were going." I answered, "You could have said fine. Things weren't fine. So now Aunt Judith gets a vote too? No one is voting." "That's not how it feels." Judith placed her glass down. "For what it's worth, I think you should look at more than one apartment before condemning the entire concept. Nobody asked what you think. People rarely do. It hasn't stopped me yet." "Judith," I warned. "No letter," Claire said. "This is what you wanted, right? A committee explaining that I've overstayed my welcome? I did not invite Judith here to discuss you. You sent her the apartment. I sent a link. A link is a discussion with blue letters." Ross made a small sound that might have been a laugh and turned it into a cough. Claire pushed back from the table. "I'm done." "You've barely eaten," I said. "I've heard that before." She left the room. Judith watched her go. I may have approached that poorly. You think? My pain medication wore off. That excuse is becoming very flexible. Ross stood. I'll talk to her. Let her breathe, I said. He looked toward the stairs, then sat down again. Judith picked at her chicken. She really doesn't want to go. No, I said. Why? Ross asked. I glanced at him. You don't know? I know the reasons she gives. And the reasons she doesn't? If I knew those, she would have given them. Judith looked between us. Maybe she thinks leaving means her job here is finished. Her job? I asked. Taking care of you, being angry at Martin, keeping the rooms from swallowing everybody. Pick one. Ross rubbed his thumb against the side of his plate. I've told her Evelyn doesn't need a keeper. Stop talking about me as if I'm a difficult zoo animal. You're right. Sorry. I could be a moderately difficult zoo animal. Judith raised her glass. I'd visit. Ross drove her home after dessert. I found Claire in the study, standing beneath the handwritten call schedule. The green lamp was on. Martin's sweater still hung over the old chair, and Ross's new chair sat angled beside it. I'm sorry I sent Judith the listing, I said. She would have found out anyway. That doesn't make it right. Claire folded her arms. Did she tell you to throw us out? No. She wants us gone. She wants me to say what I want. And what is that tonight? I looked around the room. I want you to stop using me as the reason you can't choose a place. Her eyes narrowed. What does that mean? If you don't like an apartment, don't take it. If you're not ready to move, say that. But don't pretend you have to stay because I can't survive without you. You needed me. Yes. You might need me again. Yes. And if I'm not here, I'll call. You didn't call when you fell. A neighbor did. I was unconscious. For less than a minute. An inconvenient minute. This is funny to you? No. But it happened once, and you built your life around making sure it never happens again. Someone had to. Why? Because you wouldn't. I stepped closer. Claire, needing you once does not mean you have to live here forever. She stared at me. Have to? Want to, then? You think I'm pathetic. I think you're afraid. Of what? Of leaving me with him. Her face emptied. I touched the back of Martin's chair. He isn't here, I said. You act like he is. Sometimes. You choose him every time you walk into this room. This room is not your father. It was to you. No. It was where he went when he didn't know how to be with us. Claire's breath shook. And you gave it back to him. I put his things back. You put his sweater on the chair. You put his books on the shelves. You rebuilt the whole damn door. I restored what you changed without asking. You always take his side. He is dead, Claire. That's never stopped you. She pulled the paperback with the red bridge from the shelf and held it against her chest. I'm going upstairs. You asked me what I want tonight. She paused at the doorway. I want you and Ross to find a home you choose together, I said. Not one you reject because staying angry here feels safer. She turned. Maybe he can choose it by himself, she said. The front door opened downstairs as Ross returned from Judith's. Claire walked past him without speaking. He came to the study and looked at me. What happened? Upstairs, the guest room door slammed. For the first time, I heard that door lock. Apparently, she can, I told him. Ross looked toward the ceiling. Can what? Choose an apartment by herself. He closed his eyes for a moment. Ah. I said perhaps you could choose one by yourself. Less ah. I didn't mean your marriage. I meant she shouldn't use me as an excuse. He sat in Martin's chair, then immediately stood again, as if sitting there required paperwork. What did she say? That I always choose him. Martin? No, the mailman. He gave me a tired look. Yes, Martin. Ross walked to the bookshelf and pulled out the paperback Claire had been holding. He turned it over, then put it back. She says that to me, too. That I choose Martin? That everybody chooses somebody else before her? The sentence irritated me because it sounded too broad to dispute. You don't. I work late. I agree with you. I find apartments she doesn't like. You're allowed to disagree with your wife. I'm aware. I just preferred doing it without losing a limb. From upstairs came the muffled sound of a drawer opening. Claire was moving around in the guest room, though the door remained locked. Go talk to her, I said. I was planning to. Don't tell her she's being unreasonable. I wasn't planning to. Don't explain what I meant. He turned toward me. Anything else? Don't stand too close to the door. She might open it quickly. You and I have very different definitions of help. He went upstairs. I stayed in the study, though the room felt crowded with all the things we had said. The repaired lock gleamed in the door. Ross's call schedule remained taped to the glass panel. Martin's green sweater hung from the old chair, one sleeve nearly touching the floor. I folded the sweater and placed it on the shelf. Upstairs, Ross knocked. Claire? No answer. He knocked again. I'm not going away. The lock turned. The door opened, then closed behind him. Their voices rose and fell for nearly an hour. I could not make out words, only tones. Claire sharp, Ross low, Claire sharp again. At one point, something thumped against the floor. Later, Ross came downstairs carrying a pillow. How did it go? I asked. She threw a sock. The thump? My overnight bag. Where are you sleeping? He nodded toward the study. That chair reclines, I said. I know. The man who delivered it spent 15 minutes explaining its lumbar settings. I thought I'd never use the information. Life prepares us in mysterious ways. He took a blanket from the basement basket and returned to the study. At 1 a.m, I found him in the kitchen eating cold tomato soup from the saucepan. There are bowls, I said. I've lost bowl privileges. I handed him one. He poured the soup into it and sat at the table. His hair stood up on one side, making him look younger and less diplomatic. Is she asleep? I asked. I doubt it. What did she say? That's between us. Good answer. He ate 2 spoonfuls. Then he said, She thinks I've been waiting for you to ask us to leave. Have you? Yes. The honesty surprised me. Why didn't you say something? To you or her? Either. To you would have felt like asking you to reject your own daughter. To her would have started the argument we just had. You've wanted to leave this whole time? Not the whole time. At first, being here made sense. Then it became our life without us choosing it. That sounds familiar. I know. He set down the spoon. I like living with you. You look miserable. I can like someone and still not want to share a bathroom. You have your own bathroom. You use it for the good towels. They're good towels. They're decorative. They move water around without absorbing it. I smiled. Ross didn't. I want to go home after work and have the place be ours, he said. I want to argue with my wife without wondering if her mother can hear us through the ceiling. You're not very quiet. She threw a sock. It sounded heavier. It contained a hairbrush. I laughed, then covered my mouth. She might hear you, he said. Then she'll know you survived. His expression softened. She doesn't know what she is when she isn't needed, he said. Judith said something like that. Judith says everything like that. I taught Claire to be useful. You taught her plenty of things. She's 41. Some of this belongs to her now. I looked at the mug on the table. The waterproof seal caught the light along the crack. I was useful to Martin, I said. Ross waited. I made his silences manageable. I smoothed things over. I told myself I was holding the family together. Maybe you were. Maybe I was just making sure nothing changed. You're changing things now. I'm 3 months away from changing things. Is that what you want? No, I answered before I knew I had decided. Ross took another bite of soup. What do you want? He asked. Apparently, I want to ruin everyone's sleep. You're doing excellent work. Claire came downstairs at 7 wearing her work clothes. Her eyes were swollen, but her makeup was exact. She took the coffee pot from Ross's hand without looking at him. Are you going in early? He asked. Yes. I found another place. Congratulations, Claire. I said, "Congratulations. It has 2 bedrooms, no gray floors, an architectural triumph. I made an appointment for 6. Go. I want you to come. I have work. So do I." She poured coffee into her cup. Some spilled again, but this time she ignored it. I sat at the dining table. Martin's mug held only 2 pens now. "I need to say something," I told them. Claire kept her back to me. "Of course you do." Ross pulled out a chair but did not sit. "I don't want to wait 3 months." Claire turned slowly. "I want you to move within 6 weeks. The coffee pot remained in her hand. Ross lowered himself into the chair. 6 weeks? Yes. What changed? Claire asked. I did. No. Something happened. Aunt Judith said something. Ross said something. No one talked me into it. He just spent the night in the study, because you locked him out, because you told me he should choose an apartment without me. I said maybe he could. I should not have spoken about your marriage that way. But now you're giving us 6 weeks. Yes. So we're being punished for fighting. No, I'm ending an arrangement that is making all 3 of us worse. Claire put the coffee pot down so hard I expected it to crack. You don't get to decide that for all 3 of us. I get to decide who lives here. There it is again. Yes, there it is. Her face changed. She had expected me to soften the sentence, and I didn't. You waited until Ross was angry with me, she said. I waited because I was afraid to be alone. Neither of them spoke. The truth felt worse than any accusation. I liked needing you, I continued. I liked hearing both of you in the house. I liked that coffee appeared in the morning and someone noticed if I came home late. But I let that become permission for you to take over, and then I blamed you without changing anything. I didn't take over. You changed the study. 1 room, you changed the way I moved through the whole house. Claire's eyes filled. She looked furious at them. I apologized, I said, for your father, for all the times I defended his comfort instead of you. I meant it. But I cannot fix that by letting you decide what happens to me now. You think that's what I'm doing? Yes. Ross looked at her. Sometimes, yes. She flinched. You're on her side. I'm on ours. There is no ours in this room. Claire. She held up one hand. Don't. I stood. 6 weeks gives you time to find somewhere you both choose. I will help if you ask. I won't choose it, and I won't change the date. What happens after we move? She asked. We remain a family. She laughed. I mean it. You get to decide when I'm family and when I'm a guest. No. I decide whether you live in my house. You decide what kind of daughter you are after that. The cruelty of the sentence reached me as soon as it left my mouth. Claire went white. Take that back, Ross said quietly. I looked at her. I'm sorry. That was wrong. She picked up her bag. Claire. No. You said it. I said it badly. You said it honestly. That isn't what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. She left without her coffee. The front door shut. Ross remained seated with both hands around the cup she had abandoned. That was bad, I said. Yes. I apologized. Yes. It didn't help. No. He drank her coffee. I'll look at the apartment, he said. I won't sign anything unless she comes. Thank you. That isn't for you. I know. He carried the cup upstairs. I went to water aerobics that afternoon, but the pool could not loosen the knot beneath my ribs. Denise asked if I wanted coffee. I said no, then changed my mind and said yes. My daughter is moving out, I told her in the lobby. Is that good? I asked her to. That wasn't my question. I stared at the watery coffee. I don't know yet. Denise nodded as if that were a complete answer. It was a kindness not to improve it. When I returned home, flattened boxes leaned against the guest room wall. Ross was at the apartment viewing. Claire was sitting on the floor, wrapping one of the gray blankets around a lamp. You don't have to pack today, I said. You gave us 6 weeks. I gave you time. I'm using it. I knelt and held the box while she lowered the lamp inside. Ross went to see the apartment, she said. He told me. Of course he did. He wanted you to go. I know. She sealed the box. On the guest room dresser sat the paperback with the red bridge, a roll of tape, and Martin's repaired mug. She had removed the pens and wiped it clean. "That stays here," I said. She looked at the mug. "You said it was mine," she replied. "I said your father loved it. You want it." "So do you." "No." She put it into my hands. "It was yours first," I said. "Not anymore." Claire lifted the sealed box and carried it into the hallway. I remained on the floor holding the mug she had repaired, while the first of her belongings disappeared down the stairs. I carried the mug downstairs and put the 3 pens back inside it. Ross came home an hour later. He found Claire in the guest room and closed the door behind him. Their voices remained low. I sat in Martin's repaired chair with the television on and understood none of what I watched. When Ross came down, he stood beside the chair. "She'll look at it tomorrow," he said. "The apartment?" "Yes." "Did you like it?" "It has 2 bedrooms, decent light, and a kitchen cabinet that hangs slightly crooked. Claire will love that. She noticed it in the photographs." "Of course she did." He looked toward the stairs. "She said you told her she gets to decide what kind of daughter she is." I said it. That was cruel. I apologized. She heard the sentence better. "I know." He sat on the arm of the couch. "She's angry with me too." "I know." "Do you?" "No." "I'm just tired of saying I know." He rubbed his face. "I want you both to be all right," I said. "That isn't something you can arrange." "I know." He looked at me. "That one I do know." Claire emerged after he went upstairs. She had changed into pajamas, but her face still held the day. "I'm sorry," I said. "You already said that. I'm still sorry." "Are you hoping repetition will make me stop being angry?" "No." "Good." She opened the refrigerator and stared inside. "There's soup," I said. "I'm not hungry. You haven't eaten. I'm 41. "I remember." She closed the refrigerator. "Do you?" The question was unfair enough that I almost answered it unfairly. Instead, I said, "I remember the day you stopped liking mustard and the year you wore only black. I remember you calling me from a hotel bathroom because you and Ross had your first terrible fight and you didn't want him to hear you cry. I remember things you wish I didn't." Her expression shifted. "I also remember things wrong," I said. "And sometimes I remember your father's version because it was easier to live with." She leaned against the refrigerator. "I did not mean that you stop being my daughter when you leave this house. You meant I could punish you afterward. I meant I can't control whether you do. Same thing. No. One makes you cruel. The other makes me afraid." Claire looked down at her bare feet. "You weren't supposed to be afraid of me," she said. "I'm afraid of losing you. Then why are you making us leave? Because keeping you here by being helpless would not be keeping you. I never said you were helpless. You called my cardiologist because I went swimming. You didn't answer, I know. We stood there with the refrigerator humming between sentences. "I'll look at the apartment," she said. "Good. That doesn't mean I forgive you." "I know, stop saying that. I'll try. The apartment's cabinet could be repaired." Claire discovered that during the viewing, along with the fact that 1-bedroom window stuck in damp weather and the living room had nowhere obvious for the gray blanket basket. Ross told me these details over coffee. Claire told me nothing until the following afternoon, when she came into the living room holding her phone. "We applied," she said. I turned off the television. "Do you like it?" "It's fine. That sounds promising. It has a small courtyard." "For the emergency lentils?" "For plants." I smiled. She did not, but she stayed in the room. "When will you know?" "Soon. Do you need anything from me?" "No." "All right." She looked at Martin's chair. "You could ask if I'm scared." "Are you?" "Yes." I patted the couch beside me. She sat at the opposite end. "Of the apartment?" I asked. "Of all of it." "So am I. You're getting what you want. I'm getting what I asked for. That isn't always the same." Claire rubbed a loose thread on the couch cushion. "Ross is excited." That doesn't mean he isn't scared. He has color-coded a list. That means he's terrified. Her mouth moved slightly. We should have left months ago, she said. I waited. I know that, she added. I just hate that you were the one who said it. Would you rather Ross had? I'd rather it had been my idea. That sounds like your father. There. You did it again. I'm sorry. She stood. Then she leaned down and kissed the top of my head so quickly I barely felt it. The mug gained 3 pens again. Boxes gained the rest of the house. They filled the upstairs hallway, appeared beside the couch, and formed uneven towers in the dining room. Ross labeled them in neat black letters. Claire crossed out labels she considered inaccurate. One marked, "Bathroom" became "bathroom, not towels." A box labeled "kitchen" was amended to "kitchen, appliances, do not stack." Do the boxes read? I asked. Movers do, not this much. She added, "fragile." Their application was accepted. The move would happen in 4 weeks, 2 weeks before my deadline. Ross began taking apart his equipment each Friday and setting aside anything he could work without. The study slowly reappeared beneath him. First the second monitor vanished, then the filing tray, then the cables. The plastic cactus remained until the last week. Do you want him? Ross asked, holding it by the pot. Why would I? He's become part of the room. He's wearing sunglasses indoors. I don't trust him. Ross placed it in his office box. Claire stopped asking where I was going, but I continued writing water aerobics on the calendar. I began bringing home coffee for her on class days. She drank it without comment. Once she left the empty cup rinsed beside the sink with "thank you" written on the cardboard sleeve. We treated kindness like contraband, passed quickly, never discussed. Judith called every evening under the pretense of asking about the chair. Still brown, she asked? Yes. Still ugly? Yes, good. And Claire? Still angry, still packing? Yes, good. Would you stop saying good? Would you prefer moist? I would prefer a new sister. You're too old to train one. Denise invited me to lunch after swimming. I accepted. I also made an appointment to have the gutters cleaned, something Ross had handled the previous year. When I mentioned it at dinner, he looked almost offended. I can do that Saturday. You're packing Saturday. It'll take an hour. I hired someone. How much? Enough that you don't need to know. Claire looked at me across the table. She's practicing. I can see that. I'm sitting here, I said. Good job, Claire replied. I threw a green bean at her. It landed in her water. For one dinner, we forgot to be careful. The study key remained on Ross's ring until the Monday before the move. He set it on the desk beside Martin's magnifying glass. You could keep it, I said. Why? In case you need to work here. I won't. You might visit and have a call. Then I'll ask. The word sat between us. I'm sorry about the lock, he said. You apologized before. I'm still sorry. I looked at him. That sounds familiar. I'm learning. He opened a desk drawer and removed the last of his gum. A cedar block remained in the corner. Are you looking forward to it? I asked. The apartment? Yes, very much. Claire knows? She knows I'm excited. That wasn't my question. He closed the drawer. I think she'll be happier once we're there. And if she isn't, then at least it'll be our unhappiness. That sounds healthy. It's a start. He picked up the office box with the plastic cactus inside. You're going to miss me, he said. Who will tighten my skillet? The handle is not supposed to rotate. It offers options. He set the box down and hugged me. I had not expected it. Ross's arms tightened around my shoulders, and I held the back of his shirt. Take care of her, I whispered. She doesn't like when people say that. I know. He pulled back. Take care of yourself. I don't like when people say that. I know. Claire packed the paperback on the final evening. She placed it on top of her clothes, then took it out and carried it into the study. I thought you wanted this, she said. It was your gift. To him. You were reading it. I finished. Did it improve? No. She placed it on the shelf. Take it. I said. Why? Because you chose to keep it. We chose. You put it in the pile. She looked at the red bridge on the cover, then slid the book under her arm. Martin's green sweater remained folded on the shelf. I took it down. What about this? She shook her head. You held it in the garage. That was different. How? I thought it might still smell like him. It didn't. No. She touched the cuff. He wore this when you and Ross took us to that cabin, I said. He complained about the mattress for 3 days, and the coffee and the road. He liked the lake. He said it was too cold. He went out before sunrise every morning, to complain privately. I held the sweater toward her. She took it, but did not put it with her things. I don't know what to do with this, she said. You don't have to decide tonight. That's how we ended up with 12 boxes. Then make it 13. She folded the sweater around the paperback. Moving day arrived with rain. The movers tracked wet footprints through the hallway despite a roll of paper Ross had taped to the floor. Claire followed them with a towel until one of the men gently took it from her and said, "Ma'am, we're going back outside." "I know," she replied. He handed the towel to Ross. By noon, the guest room had become a bed, a dresser, and pale rectangles on the walls where pictures had hung. The bathroom counter was empty. The gray blankets left in a clear plastic bag compressed into a sad cube. I made sandwiches nobody ate. Ross's office chair went last. He rolled it down the hallway wearing the plastic cactus in his shirt pocket. "Professional," I said. "It's casual moving day." He loaded the chair into the truck, then returned for the suitcase beside the front door. Claire stood at the dining table, removing keys from her ring. The study key was already on the desk. She slid off the front door key and placed it beside Martin's mug. "Keep it," I said. "I don't think I should. You're still welcome here. As a guest. As my daughter. Who knocks?" "Yes." Her eyes shone. "You really mean that?" "Yes." She looked toward the study. The door was open. The green lamp illuminated an empty section of desk where Ross's monitors had been. "I used to think having a key meant I belonged," she said. "So did I." She pushed the key toward me. "I don't want to keep testing it." I closed my hand over hers before she could move away. "You don't have to forgive me today. I know. I love you. I know that too." She hugged me with one arm awkwardly, as if the other still needed to protect something. Then she picked up her purse and followed Ross outside. He waved from the driver's seat. Claire did not look back before they turned the corner. The truck followed them. I stood in the open doorway until the rain began spotting the front of my shirt. Then I went inside and locked the door. The lock sounded louder from the inside. I carried the uneaten sandwiches into the kitchen and wrapped them individually, though there was nobody left to choose between ham and turkey. Rain tapped the windows. Water darkened the footprints on the paper covering the hallway floor. I began cleaning because cleaning had edges. The guest room wastebasket held 2 clothing tags, a strip of packing tape, and one of Claire's hairpins. I put the tags and tape in the trash, then carried the hairpin downstairs and set it beside her key. I removed the paper from the floor. I wiped the wet tracks. I took the coffee cup Claire had left in the drying rack and placed it in the cabinet. The Breathe cup was gone. Of course it was. It belonged to her. I had disliked that cup until its absence made the entire shelf look wrong. At 6, I ate half a turkey sandwich in Martin's chair. At 7, I turned on the television. At 8, I realized I had not absorbed a single word and turned it off. The house did not sound dead. Judith had been right. It sounded empty. The furnace clicked. A branch scraped the siding. Pipes settled behind the walls. Every sound suggested someone moving in another room, and each time my body prepared for a person who was not there. At 9, I checked my phone. No messages. At 9:15, Ross sent one. Made it. Movers broke one glass. Claire says it was ugly anyway. I typed, "Glad you're there." Then deleted there and wrote safe. His reply came immediately, "Both." I waited for something from Claire. Nothing came. I took the brown mug into the study. The room looked larger without the monitors, though the new office chair had left dents in the rug. Martin's lamp cast its green light across an empty desk. His books filled only half the shelves. The magnifying glass, wooden puzzle, and silver letter opener had been arranged in a row by someone, probably me, though I did not remember doing it. I sat in the old desk chair. The sweater was gone. The paperback was gone. Claire had taken both, which was what I wanted. I stayed in the study for 20 minutes before noticing that I was listening for her footsteps. Then I turned off the lamp and went upstairs. I slept badly. Around 3, I woke convinced I had heard the guest room door open. I got out of bed and checked. The room smelled faintly of packing tape and Claire's lavender hand cream. Pale rectangles marked the walls. Ross had left one wire hanger in the closet. I closed the door. Coffee did not appear the next morning. That sounds obvious. At the time, it felt personal. I filled the machine too high, spilled grounds across the counter, and made enough for 6 people. The first cup tasted like punishment. I drank it anyway. On the refrigerator, the kitchen calendar still listed Ross's late call and Claire's dentist appointment. I crossed out neither. I added water aerobics beneath them and drove to class. Denise took one look at me in the locker room. They moved? Yes. You sleep? Recreationally. She opened my combination lock before I could get it wrong. Walter drifted into my space during the warm-up. I shoved a foam weight against his shoulder and redirected him. Strong today, he said. I'm going through something. He paddled away. After class, I asked Denise if she wanted coffee. She said yes before I finished the sentence. We sat in the lobby while she described a tomato plant that had grown around a lamp cord and trapped the lamp against a shelf. My partner says cutting it would traumatize the plant, she said. What about the lamp? She says lamps are resilient. Is the lamp getting enough water? Denise laughed. I told her about the empty cup shelf. Not the argument, not the 6-week deadline, not the sentence about what kind of daughter Claire would become. Just the cup. It's strange what you miss, I said. No, Denise replied. It's strange what you think you won't. I went home and moved the surviving cups closer together. The first week cost me in small amounts. I forgot trash day and chased the truck halfway down the block in slippers. I carried a bag of birdseed from the car and strained my wrist because I refused to make 2 trips. I burned garlic bread while speaking to Judith on the phone. Do you smell smoke? She asked. No. You're a terrible liar. It's bread. Bread should not smoke. It's ambitious. The smoke alarm began shrieking. Judith laughed until I hung up. I opened the windows, scraped the black bread into the trash, and ate soup with crackers. The kitchen still smelled burnt when I went to bed. Claire used to check the oven before going upstairs. I wanted to call her and tell her about the bread. It would have made her laugh after she finished telling me I could have burned down the house. I imagined the conversation so clearly that I nearly mistook it for one we had actually had. Instead, I sent a message. How is the crooked cabinet? The reply came 4 hours later. Ross fixed it. I stared at those 3 words. Then another message appeared. It only took him 18 minutes. He has mentioned this 7 times. I smiled. Tell him Martin took 6 years to fix a bathroom rail. I know. That was the end of the conversation. Boxes left the garage, one recycling pickup at a time. I sorted alone, which took longer because nobody challenged me. Without Claire holding up each object and demanding an answer, I could postpone anything indefinitely. I kept a cracked tape dispenser for 3 days before admitting I disliked it even when Martin was alive. I threw away the brittle rubber bands. I donated 4 biographies he had never opened and kept a battered gardening book full of dirt. I found an unopened package of cedar blocks and placed one in each desk drawer. The smell rose clean and sharp whenever I reached for a pen. The remaining clothes were harder. I sat on the garage floor with one of Martin's blue shirts in my lap and remembered ironing it before dinners he had not wanted to attend. I remembered him loosening the collar in the car and saying, "We stayed long enough before we had even arrived." I laughed, then cried, then put the shirt in the donate box. By the 3rd box, I could tell the difference between memory and obligation. The difference did not always make the choice easier, but at least I knew what I was choosing. Ross came by for mail on the second Sunday. He knocked even though the door was unlocked. "You don't have to do that," I said. "I'm establishing good habits." He carried in an empty casserole dish and a bag containing 3 of my food storage containers. "You stole these. We borrowed them. You moved out with them. Interstate trafficking. You live 17 minutes away. Then local trafficking." He followed me into the kitchen. The house seemed to recognize his footsteps. "How is the apartment?" I asked. "Still ours." "And Claire?" "Still Claire." That wasn't my question. I learned from experts. He set the containers on the counter and began nesting them by size. "She likes the courtyard," he said. "She moved the gray blankets onto the couch. She hates the kitchen faucet." "Does it work?" "Yes." "Then she'll survive." "She misses you." I opened a cabinet so I would not have to look at him. "She has my number. She thinks you wanted space. I wanted a boundary. To her, those are the same shape. Are you here to explain my daughter?" "No. I'm here because she made me return your containers and didn't want to come. That hurt more honestly." Ross placed the smallest container inside the stack. "She's not ready," he said. "I won't force her." "I know." "Does she know?" He looked at me. "Probably not." I showed him the garage before he left. Only 4 boxes remained. "You've made progress." I threw away the tape dispenser. He put a hand over his heart. Martin would be devastated. He complained about it constantly. He complained about my good stapler. "Your stapler squeaks. It expresses itself." At the front door, Ross hugged me. "Come see the apartment sometime," he said. "When I'm invited." "You're invited." "By Claire." He nodded. "Fair." The rosemary plant died. I placed it on the study windowsill, watered it too much, then not enough, and watched the leaves crisp from the bottom upward. Claire would have noticed earlier. She would have moved it into better light, researched drainage, and bought a different pot. I threw it away and bought a pothos, which Denise said was difficult to kill without commitment. The pothos went on Martin's desk. The study resisted every attempt to become useful. I tried reading there, but found myself looking at the empty chair more than the page. I paid bills at the desk and imagined Martin objecting to my system. I opened the wooden puzzle, lost another piece, and threw the whole thing away. That felt like treason for approximately 6 minutes. I removed the call schedule from the door. A rectangle of tape residue remained on the glass. I cleaned it with vinegar until my shoulder hurt. The lock bothered me. It was the right style, the right brass finish, and nearly identical to the one Martin had installed years earlier. Ross had corrected the change exactly as I asked. Still, every time I turned the key, I thought of Claire saying, "We moved on." She had been wrong. None of us had moved on. We had moved furniture, boxes, responsibilities, and anger. We had moved around grief until we could no longer tell whether we were carrying it or it was carrying us. I began leaving the study door open. At first, I closed it when I went upstairs. Then I stopped doing that too. From the living room, I could see the green lamp and the pothos. The room looked less like a private country and more like part of the house. Judith visited once her sling came off. She stood in the study doorway, rotating her repaired shoulder with theatrical pride. "The room looks smaller," she said. "Ross's monitors created an illusion of industry." "Are you keeping the desk?" "Yes." "The lamp?" "Yes." "The lock?" "I don't know." Judith entered and ran a finger across the shelf. "You could put your chair in here. It belongs in the living room." That sentence would irritate Claire. Most sentences irritate Claire when properly delivered. "Have you called her?" I text. That wasn't my question. "She hasn't called me." That wasn't my question either. I glared at her. Judith picked up Martin's magnifying glass. "You two are exhausting." I apologized. "Did you expect that to purchase immediate forgiveness?" "No." "Yes." She enlarged one eye through the glass. "Terrifying. Deeply. Call her. I'm giving her space. You're hiding behind manners because rejection would hurt. I liked you better with the sling." She put down the magnifying glass. Do something with this room. I am. You put a plant on the desk. It's a resilient plant. You could make it somewhere people want to sit. Martin wanted to sit here. Martin wanted people to leave him alone. I looked at the empty guest chair. Judith touched my shoulder. That doesn't mean you do. After she left, I moved the desk. It took towels beneath the legs, several unkind words, and one small dent in the baseboard, but I turned it toward the window instead of the door. Then I brought in a second chair from the dining room and placed it beside mine rather than across from it. The shelves still held too many books. The walls were too dark. The room needed light, and not only from Martin's lamp. I took a photograph and sent it to Claire. I'm changing the study. If there is anything of Dad's you still want, tell me. No reply came that night. None came the next morning. I regretted sending it, then resented regretting it. At water aerobics, Walter complimented my improved form. I told him grief had strengthened my triceps. When I returned home, a message waited. I don't want more things. Below it, after a gap, was another. What are you changing it into? I typed, I don't know yet. 3 dots appeared, vanished, then appeared again. Could I come by Sunday? I read the question until the screen dimmed. Yes. I cleaned the house Saturday, then grew angry with myself and stopped halfway through dusting the baseboards. Sunday morning, I made coffee for 6 out of habit. I poured most of it away. At 2, a car door closed outside. Claire stood on the porch alone. She wore the green sweater. The sleeves were too long and one cuff covered part of her hand. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she looked past me toward the open study door. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside. Claire wiped her shoes carefully on the mat before entering. She had never done that when she lived there. I closed the front door and waited for her to remove the green sweater, but she kept it on. The shoulders were too wide. Martin had worn the cuffs turned back. Claire let them cover her wrists. "Coffee?" I asked. "Sure. I made too much. You always make too much. Recently." She followed me to the kitchen. Martin's mug sat on the table with 3 functioning pens inside it. Claire touched the repaired crack before sitting down. "It's holding," she said. "You sound surprised. I'm surprised you haven't put it in the dishwasher. I read the care instructions. I didn't give you any." You looked at me in a way that contained several. I poured coffee into 2 plain white cups. She looked toward the cabinet where her breathe cup used to be, then lowered her eyes. "How's the apartment?" I asked. "Good. And the faucet?" "Terrible. Ross can fix a faucet. The landlord doesn't want him to. How is he taking that? He watches repair videos at night and suffers." I brought the cups to the table. "The courtyard gets morning light," Claire said. "The sweater dried out there after I washed it." "You washed it? It smelled like the garage. It survived?" "Mostly. The left sleeve may be longer now. It was always longer. No, Dad's left arm was shorter." I laughed. It was not. He said it was. He also said one ear was lower. One ear was lower. I lived with that man for 40 years. His ears were level. Claire smiled into her coffee. The smile disappeared almost immediately, but it had been there. "I didn't come to talk about his ears," she said. "That's unfortunate. I have strong material." She wrapped both hands around the cup. "I'm sorry I changed the lock." I waited. "And the room," she added, "and boxed everything without asking." "Thank you. I shouldn't have said we moved on. No, I knew we hadn't." Her thumb moved across the rim of the cup. "I wanted it to be true," she said. "I thought if the room stopped looking like him, maybe the rest of the house would stop feeling like we were waiting for him to come out. I wasn't waiting. You were sitting in here at night. I was missing him. That looked like waiting to me. I could have told her she had seen it wrong. I had used that defense too often." "Maybe sometimes it was," I said. Claire looked toward the study. From the kitchen, we could see the desk turned toward the window and the second chair beside it. "I hated that room before he died," she said. "Then he died, and I hated myself for hating it. You didn't have to. I know that now. I wish I had told you then. You were busy defending it. Yes. She took a breath. Every time I walked past that door, I thought about all the things he never said. I thought about asking you whether he was ever sorry, but I knew you'd tell me he loved me. He did. That isn't the same. No. The agreement made her eyes shine. Was he sorry? She asked. I don't know. You really don't? He missed you when you weren't here. He worried about you. He admired you. He also believed time would smooth over anything he didn't want to face, because it usually did, because I smoothed it. Claire looked down. I asked him to call you, I said. I should have done more than ask. I should have refused to make his silence comfortable. Would that have changed him? Maybe not. Then why does it matter? Because it would have changed what I taught you to accept. She pressed her lips together. I'm still angry with you, she said. I know. And him. I know. Stop saying you know. I understand the general categories. That got a breath of laughter. I'm angry with myself too, she said. For changing the lock? For thinking I could fix everything by deciding faster than everyone else. That does sound familiar. Don't say Dad, I was going to say me. She looked at me. I liked being the person who understood him, I said. Even when understanding was just a prettier word for making excuses. You like being the person who knows what everyone needs, even when I don't. Especially then. She nodded slowly. I'm sorry for telling you to decide what kind of daughter you'd be, I said. That sentence has been following me around the house. It followed me to the apartment. I didn't mean it. You meant part of it. I could have denied that. I meant that I couldn't control what happened between us after you left, I said. I was afraid you would punish me by disappearing. I thought about it. That hurts. I know. She gave me a pointed look. Fair, I said. I wanted you to call first. Then every day you didn't, I got angrier. I was giving you space. I didn't ask for space. You returned your key. I returned a key. You made it mean something. You said you didn't want to keep testing it. I was upset. So was I. We sat with that. Do you regret making us leave? She asked. I regret some of how I did it. That wasn't my question. No, I said. I don't regret that you moved. Her face tightened, but she did not look away. You and Ross needed your own home. I needed mine. You like being alone? Not always. Do you feel safe? Most of the time. Have you burned anything else? Toast. Mom. It was bread before it was toast. Then it went farther. She covered her eyes. The gutters are clean, I added. I hired someone. How much did they charge? Ross asked the same question. How much? Enough. You overpaid. Probably. The gutters remain clean. She lowered her hands. Do you need anything? Yes. Her body became alert so quickly I almost apologized. I need help choosing a color for the study. She glanced toward the room. That's it? No. I will need other things eventually. When I do, I'll ask. Do you promise? I will try very hard not to lie about being fine while setting the kitchen on fire. That's not quite a promise. It's what I have. She accepted that with a small nod. We carried our coffee into the study. Claire stood in the center of the room, turning slowly. You moved the desk. It has a better view. You dented the baseboard. The desk resisted. She touched the second chair. What is this room going to be? A place to read, talk, sit. So, a room. That's the current ambition. The walls are too dark. Judith said that. Aunt Judith thinks every wall should be yellow. She calls it optimistic. She painted her bathroom the color of mustard. It wakes you up. It frightens you awake. Claire sat in the chair beside mine. We faced the window instead of each other, which made speaking easier. Warm white, she said. Not hospital white. With the green lamp? Yes. And the shelves. Keep one wall of books. The other wall could have pictures. I don't want a wall of Martin. I didn't say Dad. I looked at her. You could put up things that belong to you, she said. It was a strange idea. Not because I owned nothing, but because so much of what I owned had become plural over the years. "What would you put there?" I asked. "It isn't my room. I'm asking your opinion." She looked at the empty wall. "The photograph of you and Aunt Judith in those ridiculous hats. They were tasteful hats. They were enormous. It was windy. And the watercolor you bought in Maine. Martin hated that." "I know." The room felt different with her laughter in it. Claire returned the following Saturday carrying paint cards and the paperback with the red bridge. She placed the book on the shelf between two novels I liked and one Martin had pretended to finish. Ross came to help move the desk away from the wall. Judith arrived with lunch and declared every paint color cowardly. Denise contributed a pothos cutting and left before Claire could reorganize its pot. We chose warm white. Painting took 2 weekends because Claire believed tape should form a perfect seal around every edge. While I believed paint could be wiped off afterward, Ross shifted allegiance depending on who held the roller. The dark walls disappeared. So did several shelves of books I had kept only because Martin had kept them. Claire took 2. Judith took 5 and claimed she would return them, which nobody believed. We hung the watercolor from Maine. The photograph of Judith and me in our enormous hats went beside it. Martin's green lamp stayed on the desk. His magnifying glass stayed in the drawer. The brown mug stayed on the dining table because that was where conversations happened. Claire and Ross remained in their apartment. I visited once the faucet was repaired and admired the courtyard. Claire visited me without bringing groceries unless I asked. When my car battery died, I called Ross. When Claire offered to reorganize the pantry, she stopped, took a breath, and asked permission. I said no. She called me unreasonable and made coffee. The lock was the last thing. One afternoon, after the paint had dried and the books were settled, I unscrewed the brass plates from both sides of the study door. The cylinder came loose into my palm. I replaced it with a plain passage latch that closed but did not lock. Ross offered to help. "I changed one lock successfully," he said. "You threw away the evidence. I've learned. I can do this." He handed me the screwdriver and watched while I tightened the final screw. The old key remained on my ring for another week. Then I slid it off and placed it in the desk drawer beside the cedar block. On Claire's first visit after the room was finished, I was sitting in Martin's old desk chair with a book open in my lap. The green lamp was on, though sunlight filled the room. Her footsteps came down the hall. The door stood wide open. Claire paused at the threshold and knocked on the wooden frame. I looked up. "Come in," I said.